All right, good evening and welcome to the July 8th meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals. We'll ask everyone to please silence their cell phones and I will introduce the board at this time. From my right to left, your left to right, is James Morse, who is a full voting member of the board. To my immediate right is Scott Zelinski, who is a full voting member. My name and vice chair of the board, getting used to everyone's new designations here. My name is TJ Hurry. I am the chair of the board. To my left is Bob Dugan, who is the board's clerk. Also with us tonight is Noreen Stockman, who is the zoning administrator, and Ashley DeMello, who is the recording secretary for tonight. The Zoning Board of Appeals is charged with applying the zoning bylaws for the town, and we consider requests for special permits, variances, and appeals as provided in the bylaws, which have been approved by town meeting and the Attorney General's office for the Commonwealth. All decisions that the board makes are made through the public hearing process. Our goal is to hear testimony from the applicant, from the public, and to allow a full and fair discussion of the project prior to rendering a decision. To begin each hearing, the clerk will read the public announcement of the hearing and then present any pertinent information from the file, such as referrals from town departments and summarizing correspondences from the board. The applicant or the applicant's representative will then have 15 minutes to make a presentation, and time may be extended by vote of the board. The board will question the applicant, and then the public will be invited to comment as well. Public comment should only be directed at the project itself, and we please ask you to refrain from making any personal or derogatory statements. Public comment can include an opinion in favor, in opposition, or it might just be simply a question about the nature of the project. The chair will limit discussion in the interest of time in the event that comments become repetitive. All members of the public wishing to speak should wait to be recognized by the chair and then come to the podium and provide your name and address for the record, along with any question, comment, or concern that you may have. And we typically limit public comment to 2 minutes per person. The board will then either close or continue the hearing. When the board is satisfied that enough information has been presented by testimony and in the file to make a decision, by motion and vote of the board, the hearing will be closed. And the alternative, the board may continue the hearing to a future date and time. After the hearing is closed, no more testimony may be taken. And as for board discussion and decision, the board may then further discuss the project among ourselves, and we would make either a motion to deny or approve, and that would be made and voted upon. The motion will include a summary of key findings and conditions. An affirmative vote of 4 members, which is a supermajority, is required for approvals of motions on special permits, variances, and appeals. A split vote, such as a 3-2 vote, would be a failure to carry and would result in denial of the project. Under Massachusetts general law, if a special permit is denied, the applicant cannot return to the board for 2 years unless the project is substantially different. So turning to the agenda for the night, we do have public comment. We have 1 continuation, 4 new hearings, and a number of items on our open meeting agenda. So first up tonight is public comment. This public comment period is meant for anything that is not on the agenda. So is there anyone out there tonight that has anything to say that's something that is not on the agenda? All right, not seeing anyone. We will move on to our continuations. Up first, we have application 61-20, Echo Land Development LLC, 0 Percival Road, Lot 4 in T-Ticket.
And Mr. Chairman, there's been some information submitted to the file. First, a letter from Troy Wall Associates dated July 7th, 2021, regarding 0 Percival Road, Echo Land Development LLC, applicant for comprehensive permit. Dear Chairman Hurry, on behalf of my clients, Daniel Kulturi, owner of 187 Percival Road, Patricia A. Harris, owner of 181 Percival Road, and William and Margaret Overholtz, owners of 193 Percival Road, hereinafter abutters, I respectfully submit this correspondence to briefly address 3 matters regarding the above-referenced application for comprehensive permit. Item 1, plans. The applicant has submitted revised plans. However, the plans do not include revision dates or a description of the revisions, and thus it is difficult to understand the changes, and it creates uncertainty as to whether all parties are reviewing the same sets of plans. The abutters request that the board require the applicant to note the date of revisions on the plans and identify the revisions so that all interested parties can be working from the same plan. 2, plan revisions and traffic conflicts/safety concerns. In our review of the revised plans, we noted A, changes to the configuration of the turnaround at the southerly end of the proposed roadway, B, a new 20-foot wide easement between Lot 10 and Lot 11, and C, elimination of the detention basin previously shown on Parcel A. The applicant has not made any revisions to the entrance at Trotting Park Road, and the abutters continue to have concerns regarding the manner in which the plans show Percival Road intersecting and overlapping with the proposed new road into the development. This design presents safety concerns, including traffic conflicts with vehicles merging from Percival Road and the proposed road when traveling towards Trotting Park Road, and conflicts and confusion for vehicles entering from Trotting Park Road. The abutters object to this design and request that the board require the applicant to go back to the drawing board and come back with an approved design. When the board reviews the changes to the proposed turnaround at the end of the proposed road, the abutters request that the board take note of Scott Schluter's analysis concerning impacts to traffic coming from Sandwich Road and seeking a residence in the new development. Mr. Schluter notes that the only way such traffic can access the development is by making a multi-point turn on the roadway close to a 360-degree turn, clearly creating conflicts and safety concerns. 3, list of waivers. The applicant has not revised its list of requested waivers. In the initial application, the applicant requested 3 waivers. The abutters contend that at least 15 waivers are needed, including 8 from the zoning ordinance and 7 from the subdivision regulations. The 15 provisions of the zoning ordinance and the subdivision regulations are listed in the abutters letter of December 8, 2020. 2 of the subdivision regulations seem particularly apropos to the applicant's recent revisions to the turnaround. Section 305-24D2, dead-end streets shall not be longer than 500 feet. 305-24D3, dead-end streets shall provide a turnaround with a radius of at least 60 feet. 2 of the subdivision regulations are pertinent to the design of the proposed entranceway. 305-24A1, streets shall be designed and located to be continuous with existing streets insofar as practicable, and shall compose a convenient system with connections adequate to ensure free and safe movement. 305-24B8, if a street layout at the entrance to the subdivision abuts property not owned by the subdivider, the width of the layout shall be 60 feet for the first 200 feet from the intersecting road. The entrance road should be located within the layout so that the extra 16 feet of width will be used to provide additional buffering from the road for the abutting property owner. The abutters request that the board keep these regulations in mind when reviewing the revised plans. The abutters also note that the application is incomplete until the applicant provides a list of all waivers needed for the project to proceed and until the applicant includes mitigation measures to reduce the impacts of each waiver. This application has been before the board for 9 months, and the board still cannot begin its substantive review of the application because the applicant has yet to identify the waivers that are necessary for the proposed project. And 4, other concerns. The abutters continue to have the concerns they expressed in their letter of December 8, 2020, with the exception of the proposed road no longer being on their property. Thank you for your consideration. Respectfully submitted, and that's Brian J. Wall, and ECC Daniel Coltori, Patricia A. Harris, William and Margaret Overholtz. Also received July 6th from Edwin Montero, some Rosewood Estate waivers. There's 5 listed on here. Number 1, the road will be a private driveway and not a subdivision road. 2, a waiver for entrance area of 60 feet for the first 200 feet. 3, a waiver on 500 feet dead-end road is a private driveway. Private sidewalk asphalt on property only and 48-inch in width. And 5, waiver on the T turnaround to 20 feet by 60 feet. That's all we have.
All right, and for the applicant, I believe we have Mr. McKenzie. Mr. McKenzie, good to see you live and in person. And before I let you begin, the voting members on this project have been myself, Bob Dugan, Ed Van Kuren, and Scott Zelensky. Unfortunately, Ed Van Kuren is not with us tonight, but we checked the record, and James Morse has contributed to each one of these hearings previously, so He'll be appointed as a voting member, so you have 4 of us tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And it is nice to be back. I apologize for not being here the last time. I had a COVID exposure and didn't feel it was appropriate to sit next to my client, even though we were on a Zoom meeting, so everything worked out great. You've been presented with a new plan tonight, which is a revision from the plans that you had earlier. And the concept is the same, 16 single-family houses, but the new plan is a result of the challenge when the first plan came to you was to use Percival Road. The abutters challenged our rights in Percival Road. Complicated title, we were not able to prove that we had those rights. There were other issues, so what we decided is we've changed gears a little bit, and instead of putting a roadway in, we're going to put a common driveway in and have 16 freestanding single-family condominiums. But it's not going to be the same as your typical type of condominium where the condominium association owns a portion of the home and the homeowner owns essentially from the studs in. This is a concept that's the same as the Willow Bend development in Mashpee. Each of the lots over there are exclusive use areas, and the person owns the entire home themselves and is responsible for the maintenance. That's the type of condominium we're proposing here. So instead of 16 single-family homes on 16 lots, it'll be one 5.5 acre parcel, and each of what would be the lots would be exclusive use areas, which would essentially operate as a lot for a homeowner. The homeowner would own the entire road. The only common areas that would be on the plan include the common driveway itself, the drainage areas to the north between Percival Road in this area. There's about a 20-foot buffer between the common driveway and Percival Road. It would also include the sidewalks, which are on the southerly side of the road, and any liability policies, as well as out in the very front on Lot 1, there's a bus stop, mailbox entrance, and a sign. I think what we would probably come back with a small revision on the plan is just carve that parcel out so it would no longer be on Lot 1, and it would just be a small piece that would be part of the common area of the property. This change came as a result of the challenge to our ability to use Percival Road. And the concept is essentially the same, 16 three-bedroom houses, each with its own 3-bedroom septic system. And that's essentially the change to the plan. So the common area expenses would be very low. Understanding Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 183A, the common expenses are based upon the entire budget for the 16 units. But since the affordable units will have a much lower percentage interest than the market rate units, their condo fees would be a lot lower. In this case, the condo fees would be extremely low because the only expenses are snow plowing for the common driveway, road resurfacing whenever that needs to be taken care of, rebuilding of the bus stop and that kind of thing, and the liability policy. So the fees would be extremely low in here, which we think is a good way to do this. Happy to answer any other questions of the plan. Jack Landis-Colley, our engineer, is here with us, and he's here to answer any of your engineering questions.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mr. McKenzie. Noreen, would it be appropriate to have our peer engineer address the board? All right.
Yes, good evening. It's Adal Shaheen, Green International, working for the town as peer review engineer. So we just received those plans yesterday, so we haven't really fully studied them in details, but we did have some concerns, or we have some comments that we brought and put together in response to their request for waivers. So many of those have been cited already by Mr. Duggan. I don't want to go over all the comments. We have about 70 comments, but I'm going to just go over all the main ones that we really want to bring up to your attention. If you have the list of comments 16 to 20 to 19, those are just, I know they request some waivers, but they have to do a little bit with labeling, some of the radii, some of the profile grades and so forth. So I don't think they're going to change the design concept, but we just want to see them in the plan. And then we can determine, or the board, make a recommendation to the board if they should be waived or not. The other comment we had or concern about, we had also again saying with the access to the driveway between the two driveways. So we had a concern with the grading at that location, also side distances. But it appears that on sheet 6 of this plans, they have submitted the side distances. So we haven't really looked at them yet, but we will. take a look at them in more depth and provide more input on that. The other one we had was the profiles. I don't know how we can change this. If we look at the roadway profile, you could see that the change in the grades exceed the 2%. And anytime we exceed the 2%, we need to have a vertical curve. Right now, it's just not shown. It's just shown as a angle points, and that's not really desired design. So if we can look into maybe adding vertical curves on the driveway or that private road. The other one is we should just, again, more details on the radii. You just need to see what is the radius at the entrance, to the Percival Road. That's comment number 22. We also want to see some grades or profile at the intersections, because again, we want to make sure that there's no change, the grade is not greater than 2% for the first 100 feet. Also comment 22, I'm sorry, comment number, I'm gonna jump to 26, which is showing I guess we're showing the roadway, the proposed driveway tying into the existing Percival Road. We don't really know how they're gonna interact. At some locations, they already come close to each other, they merge together, so we're not really clear how they're gonna be used. If they're gonna have easement from you to use that road, or you're gonna have easement from them. So we just need to understand how that's gonna be used. Similar to the entrance. They kind of converge at the end. We're not really sure how that's gonna work. You're gonna have a wide intersection. We're not really sure how that's gonna work, so we just concerned with the safety. If you can maybe explain a little bit more on how that's gonna be used. The other comment we had was, again, number 27 was brought up earlier about the dead-end road. It's more than 500 feet. So we recommend that the board consult with the fire department, see if they have any concerns with the road being that long, more than 500 feet. Same thing with the turnaround area. It's shown between lots 14 and 15, I believe. And we just want to make sure, the fire department is on board with that. Or we also asked the applicant too, can that be moved a little bit to the end of the lot, end of lot 16, where it's away from abutters? And I know you've shown a detention or some stormwater facility in that area. Can that be, can we move that down to the south a little bit and add in the hammerhead at the end instead of having it between lots 14 and 15? The other one we wanted just to look into was comment number 29 about the easement. Again, there's if you look closer, I'm going to just turn into a close-up page at this area right here. You'll see you have a sidewalk at the beginning of running at the intersection there, but then there's a piece of land that's owned by an abutter. There's no sidewalk there, so I'm not sure what is the plan for that. Are you going to continue the sidewalk, or that's going to be just left without sidewalk in that area? So we just wanted to know, what is the plan for that area? The other one is to do with the sidewalk width. I know that's comment number 39. You're showing 4 feet. So we recommend, if this is granted by the board, at least provide an area of 5 by 5 for turnaround. Although we recommend using at least 54 if possible. So this way you can avoid that 5 by 5 turnaround area. So that's comment number 39. I'm sorry, 41. Number 39, going back to 39, we just wanted to know going back in the cross section, the roadway cross section, are you providing a curb, I guess, on the south side of the road? Because it's not shown in the plan. We just wanted to know. It shows a berm in here. Yeah, but in the plan, we just need to know if there's also continuous. Because you show the double line on the other side, and there's no side. Just wanted to make sure that is clear. We've also, for snow removal, I know you have a sidewalk in one area, but I guess what is the plan for the snow blowers, if they need to blow in the northern side? Can we flatten that area a little bit so they can store snow in that area, when they clean that area? So that's something we have also noted in one of the comments here. Then we're going to flip over, go to the next comment we have. Again, number 47, I know you're requesting a waiver, which has to do with the ADA. We'd just like to see some grading to see how we're gonna meet the ADA, requirements on the sidewalks. Number 49, I know you, waiver request, but I'm not sure. The lot size, one of the size was only 72.27. Like I said, I haven't really looked at the plan that was corrected. 75 was, I think, was the minimum. Again, 54 and 55, the same concerns. 54 to do with the T intersection. I know you provided that 20 by 60 area, but again, if you can look at maybe if you can move that to the end, or as a minimum, recommend consultation with the fire department. And the last one I have here is the number 68, which to do with the planting. I know you're requesting a waiver, so that will defer to the board if that's acceptable. They said just don't want to, any planting in this area, so.
Sir, could you speak up a little? Could you repeat that last?
The last was to do with the planting, the trees and shrubs. They're asking for a waiver from using those in the parcel. That's all the major ones that we have, basically. Other than that, the other ones are pretty much, we can probably waiting to get some information from them to see if, we recommend, we have make any recommendation for the board. Also, we haven't received the stormwater report yet, so we haven't really commented on it, so we're waiting for that. I know they did the test pits this week, so they're supposed to finalize that and give us the stormwater report so we can review and provide comments on, so that's what I have. If you have any questions on the comments that we provided, feel free to reach out to me now, or we can perhaps communicate through, Noreen, if you need further explanation on those comments.
All right, thank you, Mr. Shaheen. We'll see if anyone has any questions from the board. Anyone? Anyone at all? Specifically for Mr. Shaheen, and then we'll,
No, I'd like to
Turn
hear,
back.
once he reviews the actual plans, has done
Mhm.
review plans.
all right. Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Mr. McKenzie, we'll turn it over to board questions for you. Let's see, James, do you start off on your side?
Do you have any, some draft condo docs or examples of, from this other project you referenced, just the board could look at?
I
It's
do
a
not.
unique
The
governing structure, I'd just like to take a look at it a
Sure.
little bit more.
Normally, when a project like this goes, we're required to submit a draft master deed and trust, certainly before the final, before we start any building. We have not started it. We actually just changed the concept just recently
And
to
you said-
condominium style.
I believe you just said that in terms of percentage of beneficial interest in voting, it's going to be less for the affordable units?
It is, because Massachusetts general law requires that. Massachusetts never adopted the Uniform Condominium Act. And what it says is that the value, the percentage interest of each unit is based upon the relative value of that particular unit versus the aggregate value of the total of all the units. And so since the deed-restricted units will have a lower sales value, they'll have a lower value compared to the market rate units, they will have a lower percentage interest, which means their condo fees will also be lower. Because the budget is 100%, take all the interest, 100%, divide that up by everybody's percentage interest, and so the affordable units will pay considerably less. If I can, I did want to address a couple of things that might help as we're going through this. As I said, we're changing it from a road to a common driveway. So a lot of the waivers, and peer review did an excellent job, but a lot of the waivers under Section 305 will no longer be required because it's not a road. So we don't need 60 feet for the first 200 feet. It's not a 500-foot dead-end road. It's a common driveway. There are no lots. There's one 5.5 acre lot in exclusive use areas. As I say, this is very similar to the Willow Bend development. So for example, Lot 8, which is about 73 feet wide, is not a lot. It's an exclusive use area for the dwelling that's going to be on that particular area. There is only one lot in exclusive use area, so that it'll function as a lot, and they'll have the exclusive right to that, but there are no actual lot lines. So a lot of those things would go away, all the 305 requirements.
Anything else, James?
No, thank you.
All right, Scott?
Steve, does that affect the pro forma in any way, changing the concept?
Not really. The units will sell for pretty much the same as they did when we originally proposed them. A standalone condo is going to sell pretty much the same as if it was a lot. It's going to function and look like it's a single-family house.
All right, so by changing it to a common lot and going with a private road, that will eliminate the basic requirements. You'll supersede the basic requirements, like the 500-foot,
Exactly,
the radius.
exactly.
So is there any case law that, or other examples other than Willow, did you say Willow Bend?
Willow Bend, yeah, and I lived there for 5 years, so I'm very familiar with how
Is
they
there
were set
anything
up.
That we could see, you know, a case study that one of those went through that you were familiar with? I mean, you had to get this idea from someplace.
Yeah, I could certainly get you their master deed and trust and copies of that, so you could see how that's set up. The way they're designed is each, lot is owned exclusively by the individual homeowner, and they solely own the entirety of the dwelling, which is not the same as what you usually find in a condominium. Like the roof would be a common area, the outside, you have to replace shingling and that kind of thing. That's usually paid for by the condominium association. But you can certainly set up a condominium similar to Willow Bend, where you own the unit in its entirety and you're solely responsible for that. So we would have, the things they would pay would be for snow plowing, repair of the road, that kind of thing. Plowing your own individual driveway is, you have the exclusive right to that, and you plow your own driveway. But the common driveway would be plowed for the safety of everyone.
And I guess my final one for you is, you agree that it would benefit this time and a continuance, so you and the peer engineer could get together. I think it's unfair to Mr. Landis-Colley to absorb every bit of that.
Sure.
And have to answer that tonight.
Right. The peer engineer
I mean,
had
give him a
some
fair
70
shake at
comments.
that.
And I think once we understand that it's not a road, then a good half of those will
All
go
of
away.
us.
Yeah, all of us will understand it
So,
better.
so like the next time we would meet, there would be more specific answers to, to a new concept for this. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Scott. And Mr. McKenzie, just to kind of go off of what Scott said with the list of waivers, so I understand that new plans are being presented tonight, obviously with your representation that it's now a driveway. A lot of those waivers are going to change or perhaps be eliminated, but I think going forward, progress is being made on the project, but I think going forward, there definitely needs to be a meeting of the minds with the peer engineer and narrowing down that list of waivers, and in addition to identifying those waivers, explaining why they're necessary for the project.
Understood.
And if you could clarify with these new plans, the entrance of the driveway and where Percival Road is, and I raised this issue in the past, and I understand it's being slightly revised, but basically my concern was access and how it interferes with Percival Road. It just kind of appears that it's together. I've suggested similar things in the past where, perhaps there could be a separate access point. And I've been told for projects on state roads, well, Mass DOT won't allow a new entrance that close to an existing one. Or since this is a town road, maybe different rules apply. Can you explain that to me?
Yeah. That happens quite a bit when they are roads. And again, this being a driveway. I wanted to address on the entrance. There's been a lot of concern with Percival Road, Old Mill Lane, and the new driveway where they intersect. If you look at the plans, and I have not got a chance to talk to Brian Wall about this yet, so this is certainly something that's new because we just came up with this, is that if you look at the plans that were submitted, Percival Road actually crosses over a portion of the applicant's land. The abutters derive their rights to come out to Trotting Park along this section up here, which was Old Mill Road. Percival Road itself is the section of the road that runs this way, east-west. For some reason, it's not called Old Mill Road anymore, it's just called Percival Road. We're not denying that they have any rights to come in that way. They own to the center line there on the northerly part, and we own to the southerly, to the center line from the southerly part. So we have the similar access rights that they do. We understand that there's a concern about safety where the two roads, the road and the driveway will come together. So what we would like to propose and sit down with the neighbors and Attorney Wall and see if they're amenable to this is to vastly improve that entranceway. And that would be done at Ed's expense. And what we'd like to do is widen the entranceway. Jack can talk about the site distance and everything else that's shown on here, the 170 feet or so, is to widen it considerably. That would allow us to do a couple of things. It would improve the access for everybody coming up Percival Road. We're bringing water, which doesn't exist at the town water right now, all the way up here, which would allow the folks at that end, if they wanted to continue off the water line, they could enjoy the benefits of town water by connecting to our water line. It would also, if we did improve it from over here, we could move this slightly north, which would allow us to continue that sidewalk all the way out to the existing sidewalk on Trotting Park. Because of the runner's property that cuts right here, cuts it across. It's a very small piece, and we're actually going to reach out to this homeowner and see if there's something that we could work out so that it would be safer by doing that. But by widening that access, it would vastly improve that intersection. And then they would run together up until they come to the turning point where common driveway would turn off in a southerly direction and Percival Road would turn off in a northerly direction, but with a safe area designed in between, so there wouldn't be, cause for concern there. We're also going to have a sign that our common driveway would be limited to 20 miles an hour coming in, but we think that that would be a vast improvement. We think it would be nice, good for the neighbors too, but I haven't got a chance to discuss this with Brian yet, and it's something that I can reach out and he and I can discuss this together, but we think it would vastly improve that entranceway.
Steve, how would that be deeded?
Well, what we would do is, we would probably require reciprocal easements, because their rights coming out there is by easement, right, from old deeds. So if we did reciprocal easements back and forth between the abutters and us, that we can allow them to come in through our common driveway, and then allow us to move the new common driveway in Percival Road a little
So
bit
would
northerly.
would that be 16 individual additions to that?
No, well, the
agreement?
easement would come, one easement from Ed, and then a reciprocal easement maybe from the first closest abutters. We only need it for the first part, the first, say, 200 feet. We have about 185 feet of frontage along Old Mill.
Help me get by, all right, with the new concept, you've got now one lot that's condominiumized, right? Condominiumized. So as those houses get turned over, buy, sell, people move on, whatever, are there separate agreements? Would there be separate agreements that tie them back into that shared entrance? And would they share liability as well?
No, we have a liability policy on our common driveway. The easement would be created, included in the master deed, but be created by a separate document. And there would have to be reciprocal easements, because we would want to grant the abutters the rights to come up there too on the improved roadway, and that would allow us to shift it northerly.
So that would work on a contingency if the.
Yeah,
if it's
every time a
approved.
unit turned over, they would acquire that unit subject to that easement right.
Of course, it couldn't go to land court until it was approved, this project was approved.
Right,
So there'd have to be some kind of stipulation one way or the other.
yeah. It would all be done
For
before
that
the first
aspect of
unit
it
was
to
sold.
work anyway, right?
Yeah,
Right.
it would all be done before the first unit was ever sold.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
No problem, Scott. Mr. McKenzie, another technical question regarding the T turnaround between lots 14 and 15. Is it permissible to have it in that location, or does it have to be at the very end, say in the location of lot 16 and parcel A there?
I believe it's permissible, and we understand, we've been informed, we haven't seen a referral back, but we've been informed that the fire department has approved the T turnaround. But we have not seen, I don't think there's a referral in your file yet,
No.
but we've been verbally told.
Okay.
So how do you keep that area clear
Where the T turnaround is?
so that lot 14 and 15 don't decide they're going to park their guests there?
I'll look
Good evening. For the record, my name is Jack Landers-Colley, and I can answer that question, hopefully. Well, first of all, you can't control the public at large anyways. They can do whatever they want to do. But what we propose to put a sign up there which says prohibited parking, fire turnaround. We can, I'm not sure I wanted to do it, but we can stripe that section of turnaround so they know they're not supposed to use it. And each one of those houses has a separate driveway. So there's no need to use that particular area to park. Reality is, people have friends over July 4th, Memorial Day, whatever, they park wherever they please. Hopefully, there won't be a problem at that time. If I could take a minute and go back to the entrance. What we showed That driveway that we depict on this plan actually is the same size or larger than the roads off of Trotting Park Road. We measured Palomino Lane, I think it is, Trotting Park Lane goes to Harness. They have 10 units or 10 houses there. Their traveled way is 20 feet wide. Ours is proposed to be 22 feet with a foot berm on each side. So what we have here is functional. It shows 15-foot radii, it's not the 25. But if you were to go down Trotting Park Road now, Palomino doesn't have it. Forest Cove subdivision doesn't have 25-foot radii. Trotting Park Lane, I think, has a 10-foot radii. So we're proposing 15 feet. This is functional. This works. We wanted to connect the sidewalk to the sidewalk in Trotting Park, but again, we have this little bump here that we either need to get an easement or purchase outright from that neighbor in order to do that, or get the neighbors to the north to allow us to move our driveway entrance forward 10 feet over. If we do that, then we can connect the sidewalks, and we can make the turning radii even a little bit bigger.
So it's purely conceptual right now until you come up with some kind of agreement with the abutter.
Exactly.
be able
But
to do that.
this, we can do
Right.
and is functional. I think that's important to know. And if you have any other engineering questions, I'd be happy to answer them now.
Bob, anything else?
Not engineering, but I'm wondering regarding the waiver, that you're asking for a waiver on the plantings. Can you explain that a little bit?
Ed Montero, the applicant. It wasn't the plantings, we had a landscape plan for all of the houses. What he was talking about was on the drainage side. I want to keep a natural buffer with all the trees over there, so just as a buffer from the houses to the north, from the subdivision. So doing any extra plantings would be okay, but you don't want to clog up where the drainage is going. If you need any further drainage in the future, you want to have that area open and not being planted. But it's going to be a buffer zone all on that north side as you're going up into the road to where the abutters abut the property line.
Okay, I guess
It'll all be left natural.
my only comment would be, so on any of the waivers that they're requesting, and I think you might have already bring it up, that if you're requesting a waiver because you can't meet a minimum standard, just explain why you can't meet a minimum standard.
Okay. And I did add other waivers. You only read 5 of them.
Yeah, it's the only ones I had in here. was the
Okay,
first.
because I did send another waivers. There's about 20 of them on the email that I sent Noreen. So it wasn't just the waivers that you read tonight.
I have a question for Noreen. That list of waivers we got today, the last section of a lot of them were based upon something happening, or how was that?
No, they were not. They were just waivers pertaining to the subdivision for going from a road to a private drive. That is just a suggestion of widening that road, merging with any of the easements with the abutters over there. That's not a definitive one. The definitive plan is what you see right now for the road coming in. We will accommodate them if we have to do it, but it's not predicated on us making any type of agreement with the abutters. That is
No, that wasn't what I was asking. The additional waiver requests, the last line left them kind of open-ended. If this happened, then we would request this. What was the terminology on, are they deemed definitive the way it was proposed today?
So I think those were from the peer engineer's
Correct.
comments, as opposed to your maybe explicitly requesting a waiver.
Correct. And, well, what I did was, the waivers that I did with peer engineering, instead of making a sentence for the waivers that I wanted to make it ambiguous, I actually took their terminology of what they were looking for, where I needed a waiver. So, for example, with the 500-foot road, instead of just saying a 500-foot road, the new waivers that I sent, it just explained a little bit more what peer engineering was looking for and what their concern was. So that's what I did with the new waivers that came in.
So I'll ask you the same question I asked Steve. So a little time lag for you and the peer engineer to get together to help make this more understandable and more approvable would benefit everybody, right? I mean, some of those could be
Yeah,
cleared
absolutely,
up,
yeah.
and so
Yeah.
we wouldn't have these questions, and they wouldn't be open-ended. We're trying to get to a spot here where this is approvable.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they did once it went from a road to a private road, but that's what we'll discuss. Not being a road, it's a private driveway.
Anything else from the board?
Thank you.
So I think the one question or thought I have, just to keep in mind, is that if you are going with this condominium layout, et cetera, that that water line that's installed in there will all be private. So that will, I assume, become the responsibility of the condominium association as well, correct, for repairs, et cetera?
Yeah, the water will be on the property. The easement that you saw on the other side is when I was working with the DPW. The only reason why there's an easement between, I think it's lots 14 and 15, it's just if there's ever a problem, the town needs to come onto the property because we have to do, connect to Harness Way and do a loop with it. So that's the only reason why there's an easement on there. But as far as when the town water goes in, from what I understand, even though we're putting in the town water, the town does have the right to come in and fix the water if there's a breakage or whatever it may be. So that they do have, so they still have a right to the town water. That was from my understanding when I went over it with Mr. Rafferty, but I understand he's no longer, he's retiring, so.
Mr. McKenzie, I think we'll turn it over to public comment unless you want to address any other points. All right. All right, so we will turn it over to public comment. Anyone wishing to speak just needs to raise their hand, wait to be recognized by me. You can come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. We give 2 minutes per person, and we will limit conversation if comments do become repetitive. So, anyone out there?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is Brian Wall, and I represent the 3 abutters to the north. And before I say anything, let me say it's good to be here in person for a change, instead of looking at everyone on a computer screen. I made some points in the letter that Mr. Dugan read. Obviously, I'm not going to repeat those points, but I would like to emphasize the first one, which is that we're all trying to represent our clients, and you're trying to represent the interests of the town. And I think it's important that we all understand what the plan is. And I would just ask or reemphasize what I said in my letter, which is if the engineer could simply, every time the plan is revised, add a revision date so we know what plan we're looking at. And it would even be better if they could add some notes to indicate what the revisions were instead of having to kind of hunt through the complicated plan to see what's different this time. Having said that, again, we do emphasize the points that I made in my letter, but hearing some new information tonight, we have 2 points that we'd like to make. You've heard me say on the Zoom meetings and in my correspondence that my clients have significant concerns, safety-based concerns, about the design of the road that we're discussing here, about how Percival Road intersects with what's now going to be called a common driveway. My clients and I have discussed this, and we're not traffic engineers, but one need not be a traffic engineer to just imagine 2 different situations. If you're coming along Trotting Park and you all of a sudden turn into Percival, there could possibly be 2 cars coming right at you, one down Percival and one coming out of the common driveway. And that would present a very confusing situation for a driver, especially at night with headlights. And the reverse is also true if you can imagine coming out. The roads merge together. We don't know if there's going to be vegetation or how that's all going to work, and it's theoretically possible that someone could be coming out of Percival towards Trotting Park, and similarly, someone could be coming out of the new development, and then what do? Most roads, and again, I'm using common sense and things that my clients and I have discussed, when you merge, usually all the traffic is going in the same direction, like when you merge on a highway or when 2 different roads merged. In here, there's conflicting directions, and it's very, very confusing, and we consider it to be a safety hazard. In our correspondence, we identified several subdivision regulations that we think would prohibit this, and the peer engineer identified the same ones. Those regulations are on the books for safety reasons. And what we heard tonight is they've changed the plan from a subdivision to a condominium. And by doing so, all of a sudden, they don't have to comply with the subdivision regulations because now it's a common driveway instead of a road. But I would urge the board to consider the following. The safety conditions are still there, and the regulations that were intended to prevent these types of things from happening are on the books for a reason, and just because you call the road a different name doesn't mean the safety considerations go away. In fact, they can call it a common driveway, but it's still servicing 16 separate homes. And I'm gonna look at this because we just heard this tonight, but I'd like to know what the definition of a common driveway is, because I think it's usually to serve 2 or 3 homes, not 16. This is functionally gonna be a road, and you can't call it anything else than a road. The last point I want to make has to do with the waivers. My letter, again, mentioned, you've been hearing me say this time after time, that the applicant must come up with a list of waivers, and they hadn't done so, and my letter continues to point that out, because we got the waivers yesterday. First point I'd like to make is there are inconsistencies. We saw an Excel spreadsheet that it appears to have been prepared by the peer engineer. I'm not sure if that's where it was generated from. And then there's a comment section, a response by the applicant. And so the Excel spreadsheet identifies numerous provisions of your regulations, zoning, subdivision, submittal requirements that are not complied with. And then the response of the applicant was either a verbal response or a written response, or simply a request for waiver. And the waiver requests on that Excel spreadsheet are different than what we're hearing tonight, because it sounds like this idea to go to a condominium was last minute. So although we have a list of waivers, we do not have an accurate list of waivers yet. And so we would ask that that be provided so that we can, again, all be working off the same information. And my final point, again, is about the waivers. The board well knows that the waivers have to be justified by the applicant. They have to be necessary for the project to proceed. And the board has to weigh the waiver requests against local needs. And the local needs are the provisions of your regulations. And we've identified them particularly in the very first letter I wrote. For example, the wildlife corridor, the coastal pond overlay district, et cetera. It appears to us that the applicant is kind of coming at this on an ad hoc, as we go, on the fly basis. It's very clear that what they're trying to do is take this parcel of land and put as many houses on there as possible, and then the answer whenever they have a non-compliance situation is ask for a waiver. But that's not really how it works. The waiver has to be justified for the project and weighed against your public needs. So I would end by the following. Let's get a final, accurate list of waivers so we all know what it is. And then I ask the board to go through the process meticulously and make sure that each waiver is justifiable and weigh it against your public needs. And I think that after 9 months of hearing this project, we're just now getting to the real review. And we'll look forward to seeing you at the next continuance.
Thank you, Attorney Wallin. Good to see you live in person.
You too.
All right, anyone out there? Sirs?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Pat Harris. I live at 181 Percival Road. I don't want to take much attention away from the primary concern I have, and I think it's been made pretty clear by common sense that this proposed road design is not safe. The town engineer did 2 referral reports for you, and he talked about this new design as creating conflicts in traffic. Again, as Attorney Wall had said, when you're merging, you're going in the same direction. We're gonna have roads, people coming in 2 directions on one road and 2 directions on another road, and somehow they're going to be able to figure each other out and go in an orderly fashion. I think that the applicant needs to describe that in depth and in detail and show how this could possibly work. I can't imagine that it could. Putting aside my primary concerns about the safety issue being created by this proposed, now it's called a driveway, I do want to point out to the board that you have asked repeatedly for more information, more specificity, stormwater analysis, drainage analysis, and it's not forthcoming. I have a punch list of at least 20 items that were requested either by the board or by Scott Schulter so that he could evaluate things. And the applicant simply ignores requests. I know at the last meeting, Mr. Chair, you instructed the applicant, if they didn't come forward this hearing with more substantive information, that you would exercise, or you could exercise your right for an administrative denial. And I think it's important for this board to hold their feet to the fire and make them come forward with real definitive plans. We're left confused. We know, I as well as you, I also volunteer and I am a participant in one of the town permitting boards. And I know how difficult it is to do your task. You have lots of filings, you have lots of plans, lots of studies submitted to you. And the last thing you need to be doing is chasing down an applicant and making them satisfy the filing requirements. And I urge you to use that power to get this thing in line. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. Anyone else out there? Question, comments, or concerns regarding this project? All right, seeing none, back to the board, or I should say, Mr. McKenzie, I don't know if you want to address any of the public comments?
No, the only thing I want to say is I do understand the concerns that some things haven't been brought forward to you. So we will diligently get any specific waivers that are necessary, rationale for why we can't meet a standard, and get them all to you. And if there are any other changes to the plan, in proper form and order, with plenty of time for the board to review without getting it at the last minute.
All right. Any follow-up questions from the board?
No, it's not.
All right, so I think we are looking at a continuance, and before we actually do that, Mr. McKenzie, I think we need to,
Yeah, we have to
Sign
do
an
extension, but,
extension.
so they understand actually what we need for the next meeting.
right, so let's make sure we know what's to be expected for the next
So
hearing.
we have to make sure we have a finalized list of waivers requested. You have to get all the information that he just discussed, because they're changing this to a condominium, along with the difference now that you're gonna have lower fees for the affordable units, but it's also gonna lower their voting percentage in the complex. The reason I'm a little worried about that is that there's been issues with complexes where an affordable unit now has less voting rights, and they kind of get overwritten by everyone else in the complex. So I know that in some situations, they've actually lowered the purchase price of the units and actually kept the condo fees the same, so that their voting rights don't change. That might be something you want to look at. We have to make sure that we have any of the waivers that you are requesting, now and forward, we have to get a reason why you can't meet the standards, why the waiver is actually needed. I know the peer review did their initial review of the project and gave their comments, but you really should be coming up with your waivers prior to a peer review. It shouldn't be up to the peer review to come up with what waivers you need. You should be coming up with that yourself. And again, you said you get the information in advance. That's really important. I know it's a new concept, but having this come up 2 days before, where stuff goes out to the public and people come in, it does get confusing to the board, but it is hard to get any kind of feedback from the public because they don't know what kind of plans they are, so.
You're also gonna need some time to open up negotiations with the abutter for that entranceway, because that's a key piece of this. You're gonna have enough I mean, how much time do you think you'll need for that?
I think we can all be ready in a month.
If everything comes back intact and that negotiations is still left open, you know?
So our next available date would be August 19th. So does that give you enough time to finalize what you need, or will you need extra time?
I think we can be ready, that's about 6 weeks.
Is our peer engineer available too?
Yeah, on the 19th.
Okay.
All right, so then I would make a motion to continue this hearing to August 19th, and then the applicant will have to sign a extension waiver.
Second Mr. Dugan's motion.
All right, so a motion is made to continue this hearing to August 19th, made by Bob, second by Scott. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. All right, Mr. McKenzie, thank you to you and your team. We will see you
And
back
Steve, if you
here
could just,
August 19th.
if you could just sign on this. I think it's the first one, yeah.
We'll just give it a second. We just see some people moving in and out. Some chairs are available. All right, up next.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to take a item out of order from our open meeting, item number 1. It's a request for board administrative approval on 42-21 Woods Hole Partners LLC, 53 Woods Hole Road. They're requesting a modification of special permit 115-18 to allow modifications to previously approved plans.
All right, so the motion was made to take the board administrative approval for application 42-21 Woods Hole Partners LLC, 533 Woods Hole Road, out of order.
I'll
Is
second.
there a second? Thank you, James. So the motion was made by Bob, second by James. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so we're taking the board administrative approval, 4221 Woods Hole Partners LLC, 533 Woods Hole Road, requesting modification of a special permit 115-18 to allow modifications to previously approved plans. Okay, Attorney Alman and Attorney Clara, not sure who to address, but. Yep, all right. We do traditionally take board administrative approvals by the papers. We're not usually accustomed to presentations or PDFs, so I'm not sure how the board wants to proceed.
I don't have a problem with the presentation.
Me either.
No, Bob?
Go ahead.
All right. Attorney Alman?
Thank you very much. So for the record, I'm Bob Ament. I'm a Falmouth attorney. My partner in the law practice is Kevin Clower, who's here to my right, and will make some of this presentation, I expect. We represent Woods Hole Partners LLC, and the principal of that, the manager, is Mark Bogosian. Mark is here. From Holmes and McGrath, Raul Lizardi Rivera is here as well, and some other supporting characters. As you all know, the board in 2019 granted a special permit to allow the redevelopment of the 5.5-acre parcel in Woods Hole known as the Dome, which had a 54 motel room motel on the property along with a restaurant. It's all in disrepair, and the Board of Appeals has approved the removal of all the buildings except for the Buckminster Fuller Dome, an historic structure that will be restored. This is a big project with 8 buildings, including the Dome, 43 units of housing, including 4 affordable housing units to be constructed on the site. It certainly should surprise nobody that over the course of permitting and the course of the final production of construction drawings, some changes have been proposed. Like all of your special permits, the special permit granted in 2019 includes the language that any deviation, no matter how minor, to the approved plans has to be reviewed and approved by the board, with the proviso that the zoning administrator can review the changes to determine if they're minor in nature and require a hearing that is an amendment of the decision. So you have before you a request for a bunch of changes and a whole set of the entire construction drawings. I think they're 37 pages. And they show a few changes. And we're before you seeking either an administrative okay, administrative approval for those changes, which we firmly believe is appropriate, or a modification of the special permit. All of the changes which you've either reviewed already from what's been filed or we're going to show you are minor, with either absolutely no impact on abutters or others, or certainly no negative impact at all. Probably the biggest change is that Building E, which is a multi-unit building, is reduced in size and shifted 6 feet further away from the dome at the request of other boards. The project has been reviewed, of course, by the Historical Commission, both locally and by the Massachusetts Historical Commission, the latter in the process of its review and approval as to content and form of the preservation restriction that's required. It's been signed by the developer and is being circulated now for signatures by the selectmen and the Historical Commission itself before it can be recorded. The project's also, of course, been reviewed by the Planning Board, and the Planning Board late last year reviewed the plans that we've submitted to you, and the Planning Board voted to give the town planner authority to approve all of these changes administratively. So with that background, I'd like to show you what we have here for changes. There are modifications to almost all the buildings, but they're all so slight. None of the revisions, we say in bold, independently or collectively constitutes a substantial deviation from the changes. It don't change the nature or intent of the approval. There's no change in what's proposed on the site, and what the uses are proposed, no change in number of bedrooms. Let's see if I do this. These are approved plans and proposed plans, and the changes that are on these plans are extremely minimal. For instance, on Building A, which is the largest building, the only change to the footprint is that an entry area, right in this area, the dimensions of it are changed slightly. This building, which is Building D, at the request of the Historical Commission, it was rotated a few degrees, which very, very slightly changed its location for what's shown here. Building E, I referred to a couple moments ago, is this building, and you can see the same building here, but it's the proposed building's a little smaller, and the separation from the dome is different. All told, there's actually a decrease in the footprint of the buildings, a 253 square foot decrease. There's also a decrease in the lot coverage by parking and paving, as well as structures. It's a 277 foot decrease in the driveway, walkway, and parking footprints. But it's the same plan. It's the same proposal. The buildings are in just about the identical location, and any changes are extremely minor. And the Planning Board has made that determination. As I said with Building E, that building was reduced in size. It's 430 square feet smaller. The interior was adjusted so that there could be 2 more parking spaces inside, and that meant there are 2 fewer parking spaces outside. As noted, and it's significant, the layout is 6.3 feet farther away from the dome. The driveway is adjusted a little bit. It's an increase, but the modification of parking reduces by 540 square feet the lot coverage. There have been adjustments to dry well locations and roof drain pipes. I mean, these are minor deviations, and no matter how minor, they're supposed to come back to the board. They are tremendously, really minor. Building C footprint is actually reduced by 14 square feet. It shifted just a little bit. Building D's footprint was increased by 91 square feet, so that's going a little bit in the other direction. The addition to the dome is reworked. It's increased by 100 square feet. But the main change to the dome is that the Historical Commission, both the state and local, asked that we restore the historic entrance to the dome, which is on, I believe it's the northwest side. It's not won't be visible from the street or from other properties, but we'll show you that there's the historic stairway is being reproduced to provide a second means of access into the dome. We've identified on these slides, and I can give you a copy of this presentation, the changes that have been made, and then the plans are shown. They're often hard to detect where there have been changes because they're so minor. But this is Building A, that's the big building, and we have the plans approved by the ZBA. Difficult to see at this scale without studying, but if you looked at the arrangement of windows and some of the roof elevations without making the building any higher, without changing the footprint, there are small changes, and some of the window arrangement is a little bit different. But much of it is hard to tell any difference. If I had more time, I would go over some of these in detail and point out to you where there's some different windows and the like, and I will do that if you wish me to. But I need to move on because of getting through this. The same is true with buildings B and C. We have on the top the proposed plan, and below the approved plan, and the changes are almost hard to detect. You'll notice, for instance, on Building C, that to have some variation in the appearance of the buildings, the upper part of the building now has clapboards instead of shingles that are shown below. That's the type of change that we're talking about. The same is true in this plan. You can see that we have clapboards on the proposed plan and shingling throughout the building on the approved plan. Same is true on Building D. Building E, I've already discussed in some detail. But this is the proposed plan on the top, the previously approved plan. The proposed plan is a little bit smaller. Again, some of the fenestration, the windows have been modified. On the affordable housing units, buildings F and G, almost no changes. The awning arrangement in the front over the front entrances is a little bit different. And there have been additional windows added in the rear. You can see the comparison. A couple of additional windows here that they don't appear on the approved plans. And no changes at all to the footprint. And the dome. The layout of the addition to the dome is slightly changed. It's not quite as wide, but we're counting a covered entryway. That's what brings the structure to 100 feet more. It's actually interior space a little smaller. And you can see on the left, the proposed plan shows the historic entrance. And again, that's on a side of the building that it probably isn't visible at all from the street or from the Treehouse Lodge next door. There are some differences in appearance in the building, but these changes have been approved by the Historical Commission, local and state, as well as by the Planning Board. So, again, we can go into look at all these plans in more detail, but those are the changes that we're talking about. The decision of the Board of Appeals in June of 2019 was appealed by an abutter. It took 20 months to get a decision from the Superior Court in favor of the board's decision, in favor of your decision, in favor of the applicant. And that came down at the beginning of March of this year. The Superior Court's decision, which found that the plaintiffs, the abutters, had no protected interests that were being violated by the plan, was appealed to the appeals court. So the litigation could continue for many, many months, could be measured in years. The Woods Hole Partners was reluctant until it had a trial court decision to proceed with the project, but made the decision after the Superior Court's order. And despite the abutter's decision to appeal that further, to proceed with the project at its risk, as it, of course, is allowed to do. So the last few months since that decision came down have turned from sort of a waiting period of not being able to or willing to proceed with a tremendous effort involved in getting the project underway. It has evolved to for many people, a full-time project. Staff has been added to the project full-time. We've been working through the historic preservation documentation, which, as I said, the state has given its approval to get the local signatures for. We're required to put on record the affordable housing restrictions that will apply to the 4 affordable units. So that's involved hiring consultants to do that, who will be monitoring the project. And they've just about finished their work to be able to take care of that. We've been having the condominium documents for this very substantial project prepared. They're drafted now, and they set forth, in addition to usual condominium documentation, the requirements that it be age-restricted, 55 and older, for all the market rate units. I could go on and on about the effort that's now underway, and that a tremendous investment of time and hundreds of thousands of dollars between litigation costs and now gearing up with final construction drawings and the like. So getting to the point where we can get a building permit, and the intention is to get building permits for all of the units. I'm not sure what the phasing will be of the actual construction, but it's important to get going. This project has been delayed a great deal, a long time. The property continues to be in terrible condition because we need to, we can't clean it up until we're ready to proceed. But hopefully within a very short time, shortly after Labor Day, this project can actually begin. And we earnestly hope for your help in getting that going. Not only will administrative approval of these changes be quicker and not have an appeal period associated with it, and not face the possibility of an appeal, of another appeal from, it will be a signal of your support, and we really hope to get it. These types of changes on a project like this are they are so minor, having no impact on abutting properties, that this should be done administratively, and I think that's for the board to decide. No changes at all to the waste system, that is the wastewater treatment facility. No increases in flow. There's just no changes in impacts. It's architectural stuff and aesthetic changes, and most of it's been required by the Historical Commission or the Planning Board. So be happy to answer your questions if there are some, but I hope that you don't even need to get to the special permit.
All right, thank you, Attorney Yamat. And regarding administrative approvals, I just caution the board, we did grant a little leeway with the presentation and live testimony tonight. I think if the board were to question the applicant, then we're getting into the grounds of a public hearing versus an administrative approval through an open hearing, and that is in our rules. So I think any discussion to be had about this administrative approval should be among the board itself and not engaging the applicant, because again, that's getting into the territory of a public hearing rather than an administrative approval. So, yes, to the board. Anyone have any opinions about the administrative approval request?
So I guess my only opinion would be, and I know a lot of these are, some of these seem insubstantial, but when you see so many changes in a total, I just think it's more appropriate for us to do a modification of the permit. You know, I know the applicants are, you know, have issues because there was appeals and they've got timeline issues, but the board was also subject to the same appeals. Also, we can't engage anything with the applicant this evening, and we may want to ask questions of the applicant on any of the changes that have been presented. And in order to save some time, we did also advertise this as a possible new hearing for modification, so that if the decision of the board was to do it as a modification, we could also hear it this evening versus having to go back on the agenda. But I just think it's more appropriate to do it as a modification. There's just too many changes in general, and just with the history that we've had with the appeals.
All right, Bob, thank you. How about this side? Scott?
I have too many questions that would limit us in that respect, so yeah, I agree.
All right, James?
I think some public comment too from everyone here might be appropriate, so.
All right. So again, the administrative approvals do involve minor requests from the applicants that would otherwise require a special permit or a modification from this board. From what I'm hearing from the board, it sounds like our questions are more substantive. I could couldn't be addressed through an administrative approval. I know at least through my review of the project, my 2 site visits within the past 3 weeks, a review of the proposed plans, a review of the previous special permit, and testimony given tonight, I think it would be appropriate to not entertain this administrative approval, and perhaps a modification of the special permit would be appropriate. All right. Noreen, I'll defer to you in terms of how the board's leaning on this administrative approval. Is a denial a correct procedure? Do we ask for a withdrawal? What would be the best course of action?
That's a good question. I don't know if procedurally it matters substantially. I think it's certainly acceptable if you essentially vote as a board that you don't want to proceed administratively. I don't think you have to specifically deny that.
And then go
Say that
forward
you-
this evening as a modification.
I mean, I don't know.
Can I make a suggestion, Mr. Chairman?
Certainly can.
My suggestion is that you now table the administrative application request until after you've heard the special permit, maybe had your questions answered, and you might decide with that additional information that you would administratively approve the changes. And for all the reasons I cited before, I think that could be very helpful to the applicant as well as to the board, and I see no downside to that at all. If the special permit is voted and the board does not want to grant the administrative application, then I'd be happy to withdraw it at that time.
All right. Thank you, Attorney Ahmet, for the suggestion, and I think that might be appropriate if we,
I mean, I guess I just have to info, whenever we've had a request for administrative approval, I just know we've always voted
always voted.
yes or
for-
no, and then if it was a no, we would go forward with the modification. The only difference in this application is we already have it set tonight for
It's already
a
been advertised.
modification hearing.
Right.
It's already been advertised.
It's already been advertised for a modification, right?
So I guess I would rather vote, make a motion not to approve this administratively, but to go forward with a new hearing tonight for a modification regarding application 42-21 Woods Hole Partners LLC, 533 Woods Hole Road.
All right, and just one more housekeeping note, because I was flipping through our procedures. There are 4 members here tonight, obviously, we're all voting members. Regarding administrative approvals, it requires an affirmative vote of 4 members, and I read that to be 50% or over 50%. So if it carries unanimously, that's great. If it carries 3 to 1, that would also be okay. All right?
Yeah.
All right, so was a
So motion made.
I'll second.
motion made, exactly what, Bob? Sorry?
Yeah, so motion made to not approve this administratively and to go forward this evening with a new hearing for a modification of special permit 115-18 regarding application 42-21 Woods Hole Partners LLC, 533 Woods Hole Road.
I'll second it.
All right, so the motion was made by Bob and second by Scott. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, passes unanimously. All right, so up to our new hearings at 6:30, we have, wait for you, Bob.
Just continue with Woods Hole, or are you just going to announce it as?
I'll just announce it, just open it, just so
Yeah.
we get it in the,
All right, so
Record correctly.
application 42-21, Woods Hole Partners LLC, 533 Woods Hole Road in Woods Hole.
so,
Requesting a modification of a special permit 115-18 to allow modifications to previously approved plans. There you go, Bob.
yep, so application 42-21 Woods Hole Partners LLC, 367 Main Street, Falmouth, has applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a modification of special permit 115-18 pursuant to sections 240-240G1B of the Code of Falmouth to allow modifications to previously approved plans on subject property known as 533 Woods Hole Road, Woods Hole, Mass. For referrals, engineering, site work revisions were previously reviewed by town engineer for the planning board with no concerns. The remainder of the revisions appear to be architectural. No further comment. From the fire department had met last year with the developers and discussed the hydrant layout. We discussed moving the hydrant in front of the large rear building to the corner near the Sands of Time, as depicted as the red dot on attached map. The developer stated that it would work better for them during construction. Water department, the water main and services are on the plans as required. A fire flow test should be performed before the final water layout is designed. All materials must meet FWD standards as well as installation and testing. Plans, fees, and owner of record information will be required for an FWD project number. A cross-connection survey and proper backflow protection will be required. From Health Department, the changes don't appear to have any bearing on the Board of Health's approval. There are 2 letters with comments and concerns and 1 letter of support. First letter dated July 8, 2021. Dear Zoning Board of Appeals, we remain in support of moving forward on the proposed condos at 533 Woods Hole Road, formerly known as the Nautilus Motor Inn. The eyesore that is developed on the site continues to negatively affect our business in a myriad of ways, both large and small. We urge you to move forward to accept the changes suggested by the Falmouth Historical Commission and allow the project to move to completion. Our understanding is that there is nothing substantive in these revisions that would stand in the way of previously awarded approval. We are direct abutters at Treehouse Lodge and Sands of Time and Harbor House, located on either side of the subject property. And that's signed Beth Colt, Treehouse Lodge, and Becky Connors, Sands of Time and Harbor House. One is 527 Woods Hole Road, one is 549 Woods Hole Road. There's a letter here regarding the fire department, dated July 7th, to Noreen Stockman, the administrator. I visited the location this morning. Fencing has been placed to prevent cars from using the site for parking. There are some cars remaining, but according to the manager from Sands of Time, the remaining cars will be gone shortly. Some attempts are being made on securing the remaining structures, but this is difficult given the shape they are in. At this time, Fire and Rescue is satisfied with the progress being made. We will continue to monitor the site. This letter is from a Michael Goldring. Subject 533 Woods Hole Road hearing. This is dated July 1st, 2021. It says, hi Noreen, as you suggested below some of the points we went over during our conversation, I should have taken notes. This is what I remember. 1, the parking lot. This issue was addressed separately in a prior email. 2, the need for 24-hour security on the property. The Sands of Time Motel had to call the police due to noise and vandalism occurring at night. 3, an independent inspector will need to be hired during construction to ensure that it's proceeding according to approved plans. The understaffed building department will not be able to perform the task. 4, the huge beech tree between my house and the parking lot is just beyond the limit of work and will have to be removed. It is leaning, is in poor condition, ivy covered, and drops limbs on my property. Should it fall, it risks damaging the property and the neighboring property at 41 Fern Lane. And it says, I know Robert Chambers met with Mark and spoke with you. I concur that moving the affordable housing units to the north is a good idea. In the current plan, they stand right in the middle of a watershed that drains into the wetland by Eel Pond. We'll also save some trees. I would hope the ZBA members will support changes that benefit the abutters and the environment. And then I was told that Mark is taking some action about a legal parking situation after he witnessed it for himself today. I hope the town will follow through. And then just a question, will the minutes of the July 8th meeting be posted somewhere where that can be read? This one was dated June 24th, and it's from Timothy Smith, from the fire chief of the Falmouth Fire and Rescue. Good afternoon, Noreen. Boyd DeMello advised me of his concerns about the condition of the buildings and multiple vehicles being parked or stored at the location. I asked him to follow up with the photos to document what he found. It was also brought to his attention that there may have been recent vandalism. It was reported to the police department by an abutter. As you can see, the condition of the building and potential for significant fire danger posed by vandals prompted fire prevention to request action at the property. From a firefighting standpoint, if we were to respond to a fire at this property, we would be hampered by vehicle congestion and an added fire load of vehicles parked in proximity to these buildings that are in disrepair. Because these buildings are vacant, our personnel would not be able to find such a large amount of vehicles on site, and firefighting activity would be affected when trying to access the buildings. I'll forward you the emails from Jonathan from our department back in March for the same issues. We had requested an action. Apparently, the request or order at that time was ignored. And it just has attachments of pictures and some of the parking. And then from Doctors Sari and David. Hi, Noreen, David Epstein, 15 Fern Lane, Woods Hole. Again, I think this is about the parking. Who is supposed to enforce a cease and desist order that appears as item 5 of the 533 Woods Hole Road decision regarding special permit 115-18. There's not supposed to be any use of a commercial parking lot, and yet I see signs if it is being used as such. Parking lot jammed with vehicles, some with Martha's Vineyard permits and stickers on them. Other vehicles include a fleet of new Jeeps, probably part of a rental. This has been going on pretty much unabated for much of the past 2 to 3 years. And then one more from Michael Goldring back on June 25th. I walked Lucy through the lot today and noticed a few things. I have no idea who Lucy is. The lot is parked full of cars. Some evidently belong to workers in Woods Hole, as they are so marked. Many belongs to commuters to the island, in addition to the lot being used as storage for rental cars from Budget Rent-A-Car, which those cars are clearly marked. Trucks pull in and unload the cars, and later in the season, they load them back up. Other trucks frequently pull into the lot, back up emitting loud beeps, idle, and then leave. No parking signs are posted everywhere that says vehicles without permits will be towed. I've been patient season after season, waiting for the condominium construction to begin, thereby bringing an end to the commercial use of the lot, but the traffic in and out, noise from idling trucks, car stereos, slamming doors, etc., only increases. So if this is a commercial use of the lot is illegal or violates town regulations, I would like to see those laws, regulations enforced. There still may be more delays in the project, but that is no reason to delay any kind of enforcement action. Again, Michael Goldring, 44 Fern Lane. The rest just seems to be copies from police logs, etc.
All right, anything else?
No, I think that's it.
All right, and for the applicant?
I will assume that the information already presented, and both from me orally and on the screen, will be considered by the board in connection with the special permit process, and I'm sure no one here wants me to go through it again, though maybe I'd do it better the second time. Except to consider the minor changes that have been proposed and have already been discussed. This hearing is really not an opportunity to revisit the terms or conditions of the 2019 decision, which your decision, your board's decision, has been upheld in court. I point out that one of the letters you've read is from Mr. Epstein, who is in fact the plaintiff, whose action has caused a lot of delay and expense. So these plans, again, have been approved by the other boards with real expertise in design and historic issues, both the planning board and the historical commission of the state and locally. There is no enforcement matter before the board that's been properly filed. In fact, the decision itself isn't in effect because it's not in effect until it's been recorded. Paragraph, or condition 25 of your decision actually says that. But you've also read tonight the correspondence from the fire department, and I think there was one from the building commissioner saying that they're satisfied with the owner's actions regarding parking on the site. And the goal here is to just get this project underway so that we have construction going on the site. And eventually, something that's completed and housing people, and providing affordable housing, and paying taxes to the town. So there's nothing that we've presented at all in these plans that would in any way whatsoever change the decision that the board made. Be no reason to change the decision that the board made because the impacts are the same. It's simply a somewhat better project because of the aesthetic changes that have been made mainly in request, as I said, to by other boards. So with that, we'll be happy to try to answer any questions that you have. I would note, you know, you only have a 4-member board here tonight. A unanimous vote is required for a positive action. The denial of these minor, truly minor changes would be disastrous to the project because these requirements, these changes are requirements of the Mass Historical Commission or the local historical commission for the most part, or the planning board, and there's simply no reason why you would possibly feel that the kinds of changes that we've shown, that I've pointed out, change in an entryway to building A, or more windows on the affordable housing units, or the reduction in the size of building E, or the addition of the historic steps into the dome. None of these give rise whatsoever to any adverse impacts that would change the decision of the board. So I respectfully and urgently ask the board, every one of you individually, to approve these minor changes so that we can keep moving forward in the process of getting a building permit. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Attorney Emmett. We will turn to board questions. James, anything?
It's time, thank you.
Scott?
Attorney Ahmed, for the record, so it's your testimony that there is no active enforcement action on that property right now by the town?
It's my understanding that as far back as 2017, an enforcement cease and desist order was issued by the building commissioner to not have commercial parking on the site. That's my understanding. I could make an argument that there hasn't been commercial parking on the site, but I would rather point out that any enforcement action against the building commissioner's failure to enforce or enforce his previous order has to begin with a request for enforcement to the building commissioner, followed by a proper appeal under General Laws, Chapter 40A, to the Board of Appeals once a decision by the building commissioner is made. A copy of that, of course, has to be filed with the town clerk. No such action has been taken. There is no enforcement action before this board. I don't think any of you would disagree with that. And for you to take this up as an enforcement action, to even discuss this issue, I think is prejudicial. and improper. Let's get past that. Let's get this project underway. That's what I ask you to do.
So the answer to your question is, you're not aware of any active enforcement action?
Well, we became aware,
It's just a yes or no. Simple.
we became aware 2 weeks ago that the issue was raised by abutters, and we've addressed it to the apparent satisfaction of the fire department and the building commissioner, and put fencing there at great expense to keep people out. Dealing with the fact that there are easements through the property, and it's been difficult to secure the property because you can't close off the easements. To get this project underway, there won't be any such issues. I'd also like to point out that with regard to that easement, we have reached an agreement with the abutter for the relocation of that in accordance with the plan. It's not on record yet, but as of today, I was told it was agreed to.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Scott. Bob, anything?
One question about the changes in general. So is there any loss of parking spaces? I know you added spaces and minus some.
No.
In total, is there any loss in parking?
There's been no loss at all. I don't know if did we manage to add any under Building A? Yeah, okay.
Mark, if you're gonna,
Yeah, no, just as I said, the only change is with respect to the Building E parking. We were able to reorganize the inside to get 2 spaces inside and reduce the parking outside.
I guess, I know you said you've done something with the easement and there's an agreement. So is the fire department currently aware of the easement access for the house and back, since the fencing is in front of where the signage is for the current easement?
My client says yes. And of course, as you know, there are 2 ways to access.
I just want to make the fire department was aware, because normally they would go the other way, and now that's blocked off. I just want to make sure, because it's hidden behind all those trees, that they're aware how to get to the house and back.
For the record, Mark Bogosian. I met with Boyd. We went through it. The reason fencing couldn't be put up years ago is because of the easement.
As long as he knows. I just want to make sure the
board's
fire
aware of
department's
it, and now
aware,
we
so
were
if he's
able to put
aware.
fencing up based off of working through the easement. And that's now allowed us to try to keep people from parking at their leisure.
And I guess, I don't know if this is just a comment, but, you know, I know you mentioned not to discuss anything about parking. I think the issue that we get confronted with is that when we did the original decision, we put in the decision asking for enforcement, and the cease and desist was done in 2017, and we were assured by the board at the time this would no longer go on, so I assumed that it ended. We get emails from the fire department that say that they've asked for enforcement back in April from the building department,
Like what I say.
and that was ignored, and it's a safety concern. I'm glad you're addressing it now. I just want some kind of insurance now that this whole parking issue is changed, so we don't get inundated with emails anymore and photos. I mean, when you see a fleet of rental vehicles, it's a little hard to say that it's not being used as a commercial lot. And this is coming from the fire department, it's not coming from the board. So has that, it's,
To the
you're the
best of our,
developer, so
to
it's,
the best of our
well,
ability.
you own it, so, I mean, it either is ended or it isn't. I mean,
We are continually trying to end it. We were before. The reason I have met with the building commissioner more than a dozen times, met him on site. In the letter from one of the complaints about parking, he even stated how there's clearly signs everywhere. When we first put up fencing, we were told that it had to be removed by the fellow who has the easement, so all the fencing we put up had to be removed.
I guess my
So
only
the
thing
answer
is,
is-
when I went up there, and maybe you haven't walked the site when all the cars are there, but when you see literally papers inside the vehicles, naming who they are, how many days they're gone for, and they're not just putting all that information in that nobody knows. I don't know if they're doing something through the hotel next door. I know when I pulled up, I got confronted with someone seeing if I was gonna go in or not to let me in. I just want to be assured that the parking is going to end.
I can assure you the parking is going to end and look forward to getting the project started where officially we'll have no chance of going on.
Especially with the project started, because it'll become far more dangerous with all the excavation equipment and all of that, where cars coming in and nobody has any control of them.
One of the things that we've arranged in the easement, and is to be able to properly fence the entire property, allowing us to be able to keep people out to its entirety during construction to have a safe site.
My only other thing was a comment from the prior decision, just again to confirm it. So the board had actually conditioned the use of the dome. And I know it's gone through historic, but the use is only for condominium association.
Yeah,
And
there are
that's
no
the
other
same?
plans at this time.
Okay. And my only concern with that was because there was no parking originally to accommodate anything, so.
Well, there are 8 parking spaces specifically allocated for the dome, but nonetheless, you're correct.
Yeah, yeah.
That the decision says
Yeah, I just
only
didn't want
for
people to have
you.
the wrong impression that there's, some other issue going on there. That's the only questions I have.
All right. So I performed 2 site visits, one last night and then another one about 2 or 3 weeks ago on the weekend. And to your credit, the car situation drastically changed in between the first time I was there and last night with the gating and the signs that said no parking. But was this project staked? I found an old stake. It looked pretty weathered. I didn't know if it was part of this application or the previous one. It said building corner 1022. It looked very weathered, so I didn't know if new staking had been put out in anticipation of this application.
Where the buildings that have been changed location, there's only one, well, 2, Building E and Building D. Access to those would be dangerous. And the changes are shown on the plan. I understand that staking is something that's usually done prior to hearings. You've already granted a special permit.
Yeah, I did also receive a request from their engineer to inquire whether the board wanted that staking done. And we did determine that due to the minor amount of change and the status of the site, we would not be able to tell
Yeah, I don't
what the
think you need
staking meant, and that, so we essentially waived that.
All right,
So it's my fault.
all right. Just clarifying, because I bothered to go out there twice in the past 3 weeks, so, all right, that's fine. My previous concerns have already been addressed through board questions. Any other follow-up questions from the board at this time? All right, guess we'll turn it over to public comment. If anyone out there has a question, comment, or a concern regarding this project, sir?
My name is Ed Haddad. I'm the chairman of the Historical Commission. And since a lot of the changes that I know you've spoken about tonight and heard about tonight originated from the Historical Commission hearing, I thought I would come and speak to it directly so you could, so to speak, hear from the horse's mouth exactly what went on in our meetings at that time. Unfortunately, the Historical Commission hearings were held after the planning board meetings and their approval and the ZBA meetings and approvals. Why that happens, I'm not in control of that. It's just, it is what it is. We are a regulatory board as well and control the Woods Hole Historic District, which is the front part of that property. So under our purview is the dome and the building B, C, D, E. So those are the buildings that were under our purview within the Woods Hole Historic District. At our hearing, the Historical Commission expressed concern about the dome restoration plan, the size of Building E and its proximity to the dome, and some design aesthetics in the buildings that are sited within the Woods Hole Historic District. Based on our concerns, an extensive and impressive dome restoration plan was presented by consultants and approved by not only the Falmouth Historical Commission, but the Mass Historical Commission as well. As a matter of fact, on next Monday's meeting, the Select Board meeting, they're signing the preservation restriction, which was drafted by Mass Historic for the dome preservation plan. So it confirms that it has been approved by them. In addition, Building E was reduced in size and moved further away from the dome to address the concerns that the board had about protecting the visibility of this historic structure. Design changes were also made to the buildings to satisfy the Commission's design concerns. I'm here tonight to urge the ZBA to reconfirm its approval of the project so the critical task of stabilizing and restoring the dome can begin. That is our prime objective of what's going on at that site. The dome is in deplorable condition. I don't know if you've been in there lately or within the last 2 years. I'm surprised it hasn't fallen down yet. So we really need that dome to be restored and the plan to be moving forward, or we're going to lose this valuable historic asset. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Haddad. There was a hand raised over here, sir.
Hi, I'm Shari Friedman. I'm one of the abutters. And first of all, I can solve the mystery of who Lucy is. Lucy is Michael Goldring's cute little Chihuahua mix. My concern is twofold. You know that we have appealed the decision. We believe that the zoning ordinance was applied incorrectly. We believe that it should have been for mixed business use, and that if you're going to use the special permit, it has to be for public good. Now, the project that preceded this one tonight has a 1 to 3, 1 affordable unit to 3 market rate units. This project, 1 to almost 11, certainly 1 to 10 on it. So I do not believe that it meets public good. However, that's a separate issue. Tonight's issue, and I believe for this reason that you should simply rescind the permit, let alone approve this one. But the issue of the parking at the dome, there was a cease and desist order put forth almost 4 years ago for unpermitted use of that land as a commercial lot, pretty much from the time that Woods Hole Partners purchased it. This is not happening because of some rogue organization that has come in. This has gone on for 4 years. It couldn't have gone on without the consent of the developer. And this wasn't just simply people who work in Woods Hole paying under the table for the right to park there. We need more parking for workers in Woods Hole. This was unpermitted commercial use of it, to the point that we had a fleet of rental cars in there from ACT Leasing in Woburn and Atlanta Island Auto being parked there. In fact, they opened up the central courtyard to increase the amount of parking that could be allowed there. They had to make some changes, I believe, to the buildings that were encumbering access to that central courtyard. This was all going on. And you have to believe that past behavior is an indicator of future behavior. We have 4 years almost of non-compliance with a cease and desist order. From what I heard, a rumor that the fire department actually went to Arnie and bought parking there to prove this. However, this didn't go on with the developer not knowing about this. And it was only when my husband sent an email to Ms. Stockman saying, what do we do about this at this point, that all of a sudden, temporary fencing, this is not a permanent fence. This is the kind of fencing that anybody can come and just move themselves. It's not affixed to anything. That was put up, and at the same time that I saw a tow truck coming in and taking out cars, I saw more rental fleet cars being brought into that central parking area while I was out walking Rudy. I would say, please consider whether you want to move forward with this. Take the time to review any changes. Some of those changes just zipped right by. Nothing to see here, folks. Nothing was given to you by hand, no printed. Take the time to consider this, and please take the time to consider whether you want to proceed with a developer that for 4 years says cease and desist orders don't apply to me. If this had been a single family homeowner in Falmouth who had ignored a cease and desist order for 4 years, would you be letting them go forward with construction? You would have pulled their permit. Thank you.
Is it Friedman, Ms. Friedman?
Yes.
Okay. Just to clarify real quick, I understand your concerns about the project, but at least about the project with the plans that we've received. We have hard copies in front of us tonight. We've been sent out plans ahead of this meeting, and they're also accessible on the website. So we've been reviewing the plans ahead of this meeting tonight. It's not just what's been presented on behalf of the applicant.
Yeah, and if I could briefly, just, you mentioned about the affordable housing, so that was a 40B project, which is different. There's a specific percentage. In this case, the developer actually has volunteered to do affordable housing. He doesn't have any requirement to do affordable housing there.
And I would
It's something he volunteered. I understand that you're upset with the parking. I wish we didn't have as much information at this point of the parking. But as much as the developer might have let it go on, the town turned a blind eye. So go to the town manager, the board of selectmen, if you want enforcement, that's how you get your enforcement done. Because I'm stunned that the fire department put in an enforcement order in April just for safety. And that was ignored. So I think it's important the town knows, but, you know, as far as the parking issue, we're not really here for that on this permit. This is for the other changes. I think the developer understands the concerns that have come up tonight. I'm sure he's heard from different people. We've got somebody from the Board of Selectmen here tonight. I'm sure she will realize what's going on. Maybe they can look into it.
They spoke about it in the passive, as
I
if
know,
they
but
had nothing to do with it. This was them making money off of the property.
But it's the town that has to enforce. So the town either decides they want to enforce or they don't enforce. So your action is through the town. He did say tonight he is going to, we have in the testimony, he is going to end parking. You did also mention something about temporary fences. It's my understanding the reason they're temporary fences is it's a fire access issue. If you put permanent fencing in, it's harder for a truck to go in. If there was ever a fire up there with the temporary, they can easily push through it or get by it. So I think the temporary fencing has more to do with, fire access versus, other issues.
I appreciate your clarifying that, and frankly, I don't care if there's a permit applied for a commercial parking lot there, and they pay for the permit, and they pay whatever taxes they're supposed to pay. What I'm saying is that the behavior that went on has gone on for 4 years, because 2 years ago, when they applied for that permit, they said, oh, yes, it'll all be done. It has nothing to do with us.
If everything gets settled tonight, you don't agree that this is a significant upgrade to that property, and if we can collectively eliminate past behavior, rehashing past behavior doesn't do anybody any good.
It's not so far past.
We're not.
It's within the last few
Attorney
days.
Ahmet was right when stating we don't do enforcement. I simply said that to him or asked him to get that on the record to see if they were aware of it. And you heard Mr. Bogosian state that they would address those parking issues when construction started and beef up their fencing. I just want to make sure you understand that.
I understand what I heard tonight, and what I heard was Mr. Ahmet wouldn't give a direct
And
answer.
that's what we have to go on.
Yeah.
But it is in the decision. It was according to the letter. We had it as a condition originally, asking for enforcement and no parking. So if you have an issue, take that and go to the powers with the town. I understand 4 years is too much.
Well,
But this is to look at the architectural feature changes they made seem very pleasing in general. It's gonna be a much better looking project with the changes that they made. Even some of the movements of the buildings are gonna be a better setup. So if your main issue is that part, just take your information and, deal with the building commissioner and the town, have them explain to you why they decided not to do anything.
my main issue is that I'm asking that the permit be rescinded or revisited, and that you take the opportunity that they only corrected that days before they were coming in tonight, and only because they were coming in to ask for something. to
We
make you
would
think-
never have the right to rescind this permit. This is only for the changes they're going for
We should-
tonight,
we
so
should
that wouldn't be
move it
considered.
Yeah, we should move
Okay.
it
Good.
along. Ms. Friedman,
All right.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
There was a hand over in this area. Yep.
My name is Carol Wagner. I live at 526 Woods Hole Road, which is diagonally across from the Dome and the first driveway access. I simply want to say that it has been 15 years, I believe, since the property was sold the first time before Mr. Bogosian bought it. And that's a long time to watch the deterioration and to deal with constant meetings and one thing and another. We are very anxious, my husband and I, for the project to get started, to clean up what is a horrible sight when you're coming down the road, what is dangerous with things that have been going in and out of that lower driveway, cars, et cetera, long before Mr. Bogosian owned it. And it's time to get the project done, so we fully support it. We'd like to see it started and completed in a decent amount of time for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wagner. Anyone else for public comment? Anyone at all? Yeah?
Mainly a question.
Just wait till you get up to the podium.
I'm Liz Egloff. I'm the new buyer of 41 Fern Lane. And I saw pictures of it, and it looks like the end of the property slopes down steeply.
When you're speaking, you speak to the board.
Oh,
so-
sorry.
No,
Looks
no
like
worries.
the end of the property slopes down steeply towards my property line. And and what I saw was that the trees would leave and that it would be grass. So I have some worries about erosion and that land ending up in my backyard.
Well, it
So-
would be their responsibility to maintain their own water on their property. That would be part of their building permit.
Oh, so that was my
They-
concern,
they-
was the erosion once the trees are gone.
That you have to maintain your own water on your own property.
Yeah, okay. All right, thanks.
Sorry.
Thank you. No, no worries. All right, anyone else?
For the record, Mr. Chairman, my name is Michael Conley. I live at 87 Gunning Point in Falmouth. I've been a full-time resident for over 3 years. I've summered here now for 50, I started summering for 15 years, so this is my hometown. And I just want to initially start by saying, because I always find it to be the case that say nothing and be thought a fool, speak and remove all doubt. This is, the way I approach the microphone, but I want to actually say on the first count, I am so impressed by Mr. Dugan, Chairman Hurry, and yourself, Board Member Zelinski. Not that Mr. Morse doesn't get full credit as well, but for someone to raise an issue on affordable housing here, since I've been through so many affordable housing fights in my life, is just really unfair. The fact that there are 4 units and the ratio may be 10-to-1. It is great that they're there. This state is in such desperate need of affordable housing, unlike any time prior to this, especially given the new day of we can work from anywhere, just bring the computer. And we've all seen it here in Falmouth, and to our benefit, housing prices have skyrocketed, and there's never been a greater demand, so a first-time home buyer can go out and get a home and put a stake in the ground and say it belongs to him or her. And I just have to tell you that I've also watched this fellow Bogosian over the last 3 years, and I have found him in each and every instance, Lord, please make my mouth work. In every instance, I've found him to be an individual of good faith. Now, I come with a certain expertise, and that is I served for 16 years as the chairman of the Massachusetts Historical Commission. And in that capacity, I oversaw hundreds of projects with respect to historic preservation, affordable housing, and everything. I've been in courtrooms in this state. I've been in virtually every town, whether you're talking about Wellesley, Milton, Falmouth, you name it, I've been there. All 6 towns on Martha's Vineyard. And I have to just say, this is a great project. The saddest part of this is we've been at this for 3 years now. And I've worked closely with historic preservation people, and I've worked closely with the Mass Historical Commission for obvious reasons. And I can say without reservation that the dome and the rehabilitation of the dome, This is phenomenal, and this is my, I was part of the effort on Knobska Light, appeared before Mr. Haddad's Historic Commission, who do a great job, and they're well-respected up in Boston for the work they do, in the leadership of Mr. Haddad. And I say it for, let's just kick off a few of the reasons. It's not gonna cost the town a nickel, not a plug nickel, to bring back the dome. That's phenomenal, and it's worthy of restoration. Number two, the project is gonna add tens of millions of dollars to the tax base, to the tax rolls in the town. And I'm not trying to be duplicative, but, we've already addressed the housing issue. Now comes the second part of it, and that is local support. Some of the first people I met when I came to town, given my, bent to be a good citizen, if you will, and I'm still trying, I went and I joined the Woods Hole Community Association. I had the pleasure of meeting the Blumbergs. This is Wendy Blumberg here, who's seated to my right. Her husband, Rob Blumberg, if he were here tonight, would be a far more articulate spokesman than myself in terms of they literally and figuratively live a stone's throw from the project. And they are in full support for one fundamental reason. It's time to get rid of the eyesore and bring this project, what is going to be an incredibly handsome project, to life, the reality of it.
Don't mean to interrupt you, but we do limit 2 minutes per person.
Well, I'm over
I have
time.
indulged you a little bit.
And the comment's well taken, Mr. Chairman. I just close by saying one thing. I ask that you act favorably on this project, and I ask that you act quickly. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else out there? Any other public comment, questions, or concerns regarding this project? All right, not seeing any. Back to the board.
Motion to close.
Second.
All right, so motion to close made by Scott, second by James. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, hearing is closed. No more testimony may be taken.
So I have a question just for the administrator. So if we make a motion to approve, because you have to list all this stuff out, is it better to have you make a motion for you to draft a positive motion so you can get all this in it? And
I wouldn't be in favor of that.
you're gonna have to
It's
list
up
all
to
this?
you. I think we would essentially list the changes that they provide.
So we don't have to name anything. We can just say list all the changes that were provided.
That's fine.
That's fine with me.
As long as it's covered.
Or reference
No, as long
them.
as it's covered. I just wanna make sure
Right.
it's covered. That's all. So then I'd make a positive motion to approve for modification, permit number 115-18.
All right, is there
I'll second Mr. Dugan's motion.
all right, motion made by Bob, seconded by Scott.
I guess for findings, 240-240G, put a finding that we should put something in about the hearings, that in this case, the historical did not get to hear the project prior to our decision,
But was in full.
but was in full support, and after their review, they made changes that will protect the visibility of the dome, and they made architectural improvements to enhance the visual character of the structures.
Mhm.
The applicant did state that the site would be secured more succinctly once construction started. Improved fencing,
And applicant
site
testified.
security.
Yep, and they testified there'd be no more commercial parking on the site.
Regarding access, just to piggyback on that, an agreement's been reached regarding that existing easement to,
So you can just list the Chambers property. And actually, they haven't filed the easement yet, but at some point, maybe we can get a copy of it, just so we have it.
Applicant's representative represented the fact under testimony that he was unaware of any active enforcement actions on it during the hearing.
other findings?
I mean, it's more procedural, it'll be in the minutes. I just think there needs to be a finding that enforcement's actions were submitted to the town, and the town didn't take any enforcement. or by the fire department. And it is listed in our original decision.
That is in the file, though, Boyd DeMello's.
Yeah, I just don't know if we have to. And just refer that the original enforcement was covered in item 5 of our conditions regarding the cease and desist order from September 23rd, 2017. We had asked for enforcement. And that enforcement order was never appealed. Also put in there that just as a find that the applicant is doing 4 units of affordable housing that are not a requirement. He's doing that on his own.
All right.
That's not a change, though.
No, I just think it's good to find. It was in the hearing, and so many people brought it up, you might as well just.
Anything else for findings? No. Conditions?
As per plan
As
submitted
presented.
and presented, including the PowerPoint that was presented this evening.
Do we need a copy of that PowerPoint for the file?
I already have it. I already
do?
I already
Okay.
I know we
stamped
put it
in.
in the findings, but improved security, fencing, and site access control.
Mhm.
Piggyback off the findings and with the conditions.
Sure. Anything
How about the hours with the business next door? Normal?
I think everything, I mean, the business was there before when we did the original decision, and actually, they have letters in the file. You could put that the abutters submitted another letter of support.
Exactly.
Support, yeah.
So it'd be normal.
The 3 commercial abutters.
All right. Anything else?
The only other thing was, I think there was a new referral from the water department, so just include that.
All right, last call for either findings or conditions.
That's it for me.
Does it? All right, so that was a motion to approve a modification of the previous special permit made by Bob and seconded by Scott. All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Reading Island, Attorney Flower, everyone on behalf of the development team.
Great.
All right.
Good luck.
We will take a 5-minute break. We are back from our 5-minute break. The AC is cranking, so we're feeling a little bit better in here, and we will continue on with our new hearing list. We have application 45-21, Barlaro, 36C Alder Lane in North Falmouth, requesting a special permit to construct an addition, front porch, and detached garage.
So application number 45-21, Stephen J. and Lorraine Barilaro, 1403 Delaware, Davidsonville, Maryland, has applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit pursuant to sections 240-3C of the Code of Falmouth to construct an addition, front porch, and detached garage on subject property known as 36C Alder Lane, North Falmouth. For referrals from engineering, 1, this application was reviewed for impacts to public rights of way and public utilities. Alder Lane is a private right-of-way in this area. 2, any connections or alterations to public utilities would require permission from the appropriate town department. 3, the project was not direct any stormwater runoff to public property, abutters, or public rights of way. 4, dry wells are shown for the new roof area as is typically recommended. And 5, where the project falls in the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission, we recommend deferring to the Commission for stormwater management, construction erosion controls, and the limit of work shown on the plans. From the Water Department, the water main and service must be on the plans. The existing meter pit must be abandoned and the meter installed inside the home. The home should have a dedicated service from Alder Lane and not shared with 36B. If that is the case, it should be separated during the proposed work. From Concom, the Falmouth Conservation Commission voted to approve the above referenced project, and they attached the approved order of conditions. Planning Board, no comment. Assessors, no comment. Fire Department has no issues with the project as drawn. And no letters submitted for or against.
And Attorney Clara, before you begin, there's only 4 of us, obviously, and that requires a unanimous decision on the board.
Understood.
All right.
For the record, my name is Kevin Clower. I'm an attorney with Ament Clower Law Firm here in Falmouth, and I represent the applicants, Stephen and Lorraine Barolaro, the owners of 36C Alder Lane. Given that the last 2 hearings have taken 2.5 hours, I'll do my best to be succinct. We are seeking permission to alter the existing non-conforming dwelling. This property is located off of Alder Lane and Wild Harbor Estates, off of a private right-of-way in this area. It's on a peninsula extending into the Wild Harbor River. It's actually a really unique property in that sense. It's 1.27 acres, and it's located in the Residential B zoning district. Presently, there's a 2-bedroom, single-family dwelling. Lot coverage by structure is only 5.4%, well below what's allowed. It's non-conforming only to the setback to the 4-foot contour of the tidal waters of Buzzards Bay, in this case, the Wild Harbor River. That setback is 26 feet where 50 is required. Otherwise, this property is conforming as to setbacks and lot coverage requirements. We're proposing renovations and additions which will improve the aesthetics and the usefulness of the property. Specifically, they're seeking to add an addition to the first floor of the dwelling in order to create a master suite, allow for single-floor living moving forward. In connection with this, they'll be eliminating an existing bedroom on the 2nd floor so that the structure will remain a 2-bedroom home. In addition, they're seeking to construct a detached 1-car garage. They're seeking these changes in order to improve the property as they're spending more time here and want the ability for single-floor living as they move forward in life. Due to the existing non-conforming setback, we do require a special permit under Section 243C of the zoning bylaw. That section states that pre-existing non-conforming structures may be changed only by special permit, provided that they're not substantially more detrimental than what exists. The board is asked to consider the standards of 242.16 and whether the alteration creates any new dimensional nonconformities, impairs views and vistas, and reasonably conforms to the neighborhood. In this case, there's no new nonconformity created. The only existing nonconformity is unaffected. There's no effect on views and vistas of the public. It's on a private way with only 2 abutters. And it is consistent with the neighborhood, which is an area of rather robust homes. Resulting effect of this is lot coverage by structure of 9.3% and lot coverage by structures, paving, and parking of 11%. Both of those are far below what's respectively allowed by right, which is 20% and 40% in this district. The ridge height of the structure will remain unchanged at 26 feet 8 inches, and the ridge of both the addition and the garage is at 15 feet. This project, as proposed, represents a significant improvement over the existing conditions for the applicants. It doesn't create any new nonconformities, it doesn't affect the only existing nonconformity, and it meets the standards of 243C and 242.16. For these reasons, I think that the board can and should grant the special permit, but I'll be happy to address any questions that you might have at this time.
All right, thank you, Attorney Clower. We will turn it over to board questions. I'll start on this side. Bob?
Yeah, so have you verified that it doesn't have a shared water service with 36B? If not, we can just...
I don't know the answer to that, so I think it just make it a condition.
The other question, and I just think this was an error, so one of your comments said that one of the existing bedrooms would be eliminated with the 4-foot cased opening, but I think that means on the proposed, because the original house didn't have...
So the existing house has a bedroom and an office, but the office only has a regular door frame.
So the existing plan that we had, I think the existing house only had two. It's the proposed, I thought, that had.
So the existing, if you look at the existing, and I have that up on the screen here, there's where my mouse is, there's bedroom 1, and then there's an office, but it's just a regular door, so it actually constitutes a bedroom under Title V standards. Under the proposed plans, that door is now a 4-foot cased opening, so that's eliminated as a potential bedroom. So we remain 1 bedroom upstairs, and then the new master down on the first floor.
Okay.
All set?
Yeah.
All right, Scott?
Attorney Clower, just educate me a little bit. Does that shared driveway, complicate, for lack of a better term, let me rephrase that. Explain to me how that shared driveway, is part of lot coverage. Does it affect lot coverage?
I don't believe it does affect lot coverage. They
Right,
still,
that
they
was a
still
mess.
own it, they're just not being used. If I have an easement on my property,
Yeah.
if I had an easement on my house, I'd still have the credit for that lot area, it's just not an area being used.
All right, so it counts.
Yes.
In your favor for lot coverage.
Sure.
And I just have one for Mr. Bogosian, if that's okay, real quick. Or maybe you can answer it.
Sure. I didn't know he was still here, so I was.
On A01, they show a 3-0, it looks like a 3-0 door going in the basement. It says, right up there to the left.
Yep,
Go to the
yep,
left, right
yep,
there.
Yep.
So is that gonna become a walkout?
There is a walkout, if I actually have photos of the existing house.
So what is the reason for the demo? For
That's
the,
to get into the new foundation.
okay.
For the record, Mark Bogosian with Longfellow
Yeah,
Design.
no, that was just a,
So when that new foundation, that's a demo plan, that'll be how they'll get
just
into
for
that foundation.
curiosity's sake, thank you.
I didn't realize he'd come back, so I was very
Thank you.
confused.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And I'm trying to get back into the habit of getting everyone behind a microphone, because on Zoom, it's,
Yeah.
you have your microphone, so, all right.
I'm good.
All set, Scott?
Yes, sir.
All right. James?
No questions, looks like a nice project.
And just to clarify on plan number A1.0, that new basement foundation, so that's the full basement being proposed there?
Yeah, it appears that's a full foundation.
All right, and then crawl space is proposed for the garage.
The garage will be a slab-style foundation, and that is a full basin in the base topography.
All right. All right, that does it for me. Any members of the public have any questions, comments, or concerns regarding this project? Not seeing any.
Motion to close, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All right, so motion to close by Scott and second by James. All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Hearing is closed. No more testimony may be taken. What would be the board's pleasure?
Motion to approve with conditions.
I'll second Mr. Dugan's motion.
All right, motion approved with conditions made by Bob, second by Scott. Findings.
240-3C, 240-216, not substantially more detrimental. They're constructing an addition, a porch, and a detached garage. The detached garage will be on a slab. They submitted a FEMA worksheet. The garage is not included in the worksheet because you don't have to include it. It's got no habitable space, and it's a separate structure. Existing property is a 2-bedroom, but it also has an additional office that could have been considered a 3rd bedroom, so they're putting a cased opening in, so the house remains a 2-bedroom. The nonconformity is the setback to the 4-foot contour of Wild Harbor with 26 where 50 is required.
Satisfies Concom's.
Yep, Concom's set a, given an order of conditions. Lot coverage by structure going from 5.3% to 9.3, well under the 20, and structure, parking, and paving 11% from 7.3, which is well with under the 40. Property does have a shared driveway access.
Anything else for findings? All right, conditions.
Per plans.
Yep.
Condition it as a 2-bedroom only. No habitable space in the walkout basement. Condition the order of conditions from Concom.
the water issue that,
Yeah,
Attorney
from the water
Clower-
department, they need to verify if the house has a separate service. If not, they have to separate the service to the specs of the water department.
You wanna go back to findings on that as
Yeah.
well?
Yeah, add that
Because
to
he
findings
agreed
too.
Make that a finding.
to make that a condition?
And put a finding in that engineer referred to COMCON for any erosion or stormwater controls. Also put a finding that there are dry wells shown on the plan. How do you wanna handle, hours, the normal?
I think the standard hours would be all right, right?
Yeah, and then maybe put something in there that, if they ever have to block that access, that they give notice to the neighbor and come up with some kind, I don't know how you get in and out of there with.
Do you want hours?
That's gotta be part of some agreement that's in
construction.
place
That's what I
right
mean.
now.
Well, I don't know, I mean, I don't,
Do you want construction hours?
yeah, do the normal ones. And that they just can't block the
I got
access
no
to
issue.
36B.
This cabin too cold this week.
Oh, I'm good.
Anything else?
Perfect.
Did per plans, right?
Per plans, yep.
Just put on the findings, the heights that were listed.
All right.
Also no habitable space in the garage, but it's basic.
All right,
Garage is
so,
on a slab.
Yeah, you never know in summer.
yeah, that
Well,
might
Some
be a
bunk
nice-
beds and a
might
hot
be nice
plate.
Cool spot.
okay.
All right, so that was a motion approved with conditions made by Bob and seconded by Scott. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Oh,
Appreciate your
thank
time.
All right, up next, we have application 46-21 Green, 27 Barneck Road in Woods Hole, requesting a special permit to construct an addition of a non-conforming dwelling exceeding 20% lot coverage by structures.
So application number 46-21. Amy L. Green, 95 Erie Avenue, Newton, Mass. Applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit pursuant to sections 240-3C and 240-69E of the Code of Falmouth
Do you have,
to construct an addition to the non-conforming dwelling exceeding 20% lot coverage by structures on the subject property known as 27 Barneck Road, Woods Hole, Mass. For referrals. We did get a late referral in from Amy Lowell Wastewater. She hadn't looked at the plans originally. She said that she has now reviewed the plans, and it looks like the proposed addition will not increase the number of bedrooms in the house, therefore a flow-neutral bylaw variance is not required for the addition. If the addition does require modification to the existing sewer connection on the property, a project representative will need to apply at the Department of Public Works for a sewer connection modification permit, which will require a $50 permit fee and a plan showing the proposed sewer connection modification. Health didn't give any comment because it's wastewater, it's on town sewer. Engineering, application was reviewed for impacts to public rights-of-way and public utilities. Barneck Road is a public right-of-way in this area. No alterations are proposed to the right-of-way. Any changes within the right-of-way would require filing a permit with the engineering division. 2, any connections or alterations to public utilities would require permission from the appropriate town department. 3, the project must not direct any stormwater runoff to public property, abutters, or public rights-of-way. 4, there is an existing picket fence located within the town right-of-way which would require a license. The proposed plans do include removal of that fence, so we recommend that removal of the fence be included in any conditions. 5, it isn't clear on the plans, are the dry wells proposed or existing? Will the new roof area connect to the dry wells? We recommend that the board add a condition that requires the addition of dry wells or stormwater infiltration measures for the new roof area at a minimum. The plan does show an erosion control line that would demarcate the limit of work and protect abutting properties. This site slopes down from the road, so erosion into the public right-of-way should not be an issue. We would not require any additional erosion or sediment control measures. From Concom, the proposed project is located within conservation jurisdiction, which is flood zone AE, and does require a permit from the Conservation Commission. We have not yet reviewed an application for this project. This is from June 1st. Planning, no comment. From the Water Department, the water main and service are shown on the plans as required, and the water meter is shown in the home as required. From Health Department, property is on town sewer, so they, of course, referred to the wastewater division, and we heard the comments from Amy Lowell. Assessors have no comments. Fire Department has no issues with the project as drawn. There are 3 letters that have been submitted with no objections.
All right, for the applicant, we have Attorney Moynihan.
Yes,
Welcome.
thank you, thank you. Good to be back.
And
Good to
before
be
we
back.
before we let you start, there are 4 of us. Any approval tonight would have to be unanimous.
Understood, thank you.
All
Yeah.
right.
All right, this is 27 Barnack Road in Woods Hole. This is the picture of the subject house. You also have some photos in your file. The house was built about 1890, according to assessor's records. The GIS map just showing the location of the property in yellow, and also showing the relatively, small lots in the area, as well as the structures surrounding in the developed neighborhood of Woods Hole. This is our site plan, and I should also say, excuse me, that David Martin is here tonight, who's the engineer, and Amy Green is here as well. So on this site plan, we've just highlighted in yellow the existing house, and then the green is the addition portion. Setbacks are shown on the arrows. You have a non-conforming front yard setback, a non-conforming side yard setback on the easterly side of the house. Floor plans, this is the basement floor plan, which will be designated for storage areas. There's a crawl space, there's also a garage, which you'll see on the elevations. And this is the first floor plan. The addition and existing are both shown on the same plan. You can see at the bottom, it designates what's the addition and what is existing. So it's a pretty substantial renovation to this older home to upgrade it. The number of bedrooms will stay the same at 4, and second floor plan showing the addition portion as well as the existing portion. These are the elevations. So this is what you're looking at the front of the property. Again, addition portion on the left side and the existing on the right. This is the side elevation, which I believe would be the easterly side. And here we have the rear elevation and the driveway side elevation. So we have the existing conditions. The lot coverage by structures is at 14.7. Overall lot coverage is 27.2. Lot size is 7,703 square feet, zone residential C, and it's on the town sewer. So we're looking to construct the addition, construct a covered porch, some internal renovations, install new stairs and landing, remove the fence in the town road layout, no increase in bedrooms, the dwelling height at 28 feet 4 inches. The proposed lot coverage by structures will go up to 23.9 is the request. That's 1,841 square feet. It's an increase of 707 square feet. Again, we do have a lot that's about 7,700 square feet, but given the nature of the Woods Hole neighborhood with these smaller lots and very large structures, feel that the lot coverage increase is appropriate and in keeping with the neighborhood. And you have some photos in your file, which I will show you as well. The overall lot coverage by structures, pavement, and parking will be conforming at 36.4%, again, an increase there of 707 square feet. So lot coverage by structures is permitted by special permit of this board to 25%. 20% lot coverage by structures for this lot equals 1,540.6 square feet by right. That would be a 20% lot coverage. So here, we're proposing lot coverage at 1,841, so the difference is only 300.4 square feet over what could be constructed by right. The exterior improvements will be of benefit to the site and the neighborhood. We will have preservation of, although not designated a historic home officially, but a historic home built about 1890, and no increase in the bedrooms. The size and height of the structure is in keeping with the neighborhood homes, no adverse impacts. The neighbors at 32 and 28 Barnack Road have filed letters of support. I believe they were actually letters supporting the project, not just not objecting. and the applicant owns 31 Barnack, which is the abutting property. The lot coverage analysis that I filed shows many lots with coverage over 25% and some even in the 30s in the neighborhood. So in accordance with the standards of the bylaw, I would submit it's not substantially more detrimental than the existing. There would be beneficial impacts to the neighborhood with the improved dwelling, and the standards of the bylaw have been met. And also, just for the record, we've got some of these photos. So this is the subject property. This is 28 Barnack Road. These are the properties that were in the lot coverage analysis. 39 Barnack Road, and I'm just showing you these so you can see the overall bulk and height of these structures, pretty significant, in it, as well as the majority of which are over the 20% lot coverage. Around the corner, Bigelow Street. Then we have down on Millfield, again around the corner, Gardner Road. Okay, so those are my comments. The dry wells are proposed, so again, another benefit for the project with the added drainage treatment that would be offered. We do not believe there's any modification to the sewer connection, as Amy Lowell pointed out. David could correct me if I'm wrong, but no modification proposed to the sewer connection. So I think those are the two referral issues. Conservation Commission has indicated that they will allow Mr. Martin to file an RDA, a short form of approval for the improvements in the flood zone. So we don't anticipate any major regulatory issue there as far as conservation goes. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Attorney Moynihan. Board questions? James, anything?
Circle back to me, please.
Sure.
Thank you.
Scott?
Me as well, I'd like to circle back and ask Dave a question, but.
All right, Bob?
Yeah, of course. The property will be brought into compliance, right, with flood zones, so that's why they don't need a FEMA worksheet?
That's correct, yes.
Go ahead.
All right, no questions for myself. Attorney Moynihan, like you said, it's a substantial improvement, but I think what you've submitted speaks for itself. So, circle back to this side, anything?
I just have a question for Dave, if he's got a.
Sure.
Yeah. Dave,
Thank you. For the record, David Martin.
Hi, bud. Hey, you got 12-6 on the new landing addition on the northwest side of this on the driveway?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I can't remember whether if there was foliage against that fence. It just didn't look like there was that much room there where those cars were parked.
There's considerable foliage along there. I've shown you the edge of pavement and the picket fence.
Yeah.
And the area.
So there is more room to.
The area between those
Yeah,
two.
yeah,
is full
it
of
just didn't look like there was a lot of driveway, but this is pretty self-explanatory if that's, I just couldn't remember for a second how much foliage was up against that fence.
Well, foliage between driveway and fence the entire length of that side of the property.
It appears they're turning around down at the bottom of the hill and pointing their cars back out, is that? I guess it doesn't matter because it's on sewer anyway, there's no septic back there. It was just a fact question,
Yep.
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
No worries, Scott. Anything else from the board?
The amount of available parking being increased with the addition of the garage, council?
I'm sorry?
How much parking is being increased with the addition of this garage?
I think there is a garage there already.
There's no proposed garage.
Where do the owners currently park? Are they on the street or are they on the lot?
The driveway.
Driveway?
Yeah, that's what I was asking, they was stacked
There's
up
an
in the driveway.
there's an existing garage.
No, I understand. I mean, I grew up down the
Yeah.
street.
Yeah.
Anything that gets cars off Barnack Road is
Right,
great
right.
with me, so.
All right, well, if that takes care of that, we'll turn over to public comment. Any questions, comments, or concerns regarding this project? All right, not seeing anyone out there, so back to the board.
Motion to close?
Second.
All right, motion to close made by Scott, second by James. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Hearing is closed. No more testimony may be taken.
Motion to approve with conditions?
Second.
All right, motion approved with conditions made by Bob, second by James. Findings.
240-3C, 240-69E, 240-216, not substantially more detrimental. It's in addition to the current non-conforming dwelling, the non-conformities are front yard setback at 6.9 where 25 is required, and a southerly side yard, which is 4 feet where 10 is required. Current lot coverage by structures, 14.7, that it will be going to 23.9, and structures, parking, and paving, 27.2 to 36.4.
Town
Property is
sewer.
zoned residential C, it's on town sewer. It currently is a 4-bedroom, it's remaining a 4-bedroom. Applicant will be applying to Concom for an RDA for approval.
Parking remains available on site.
Parking remains available, including the garage. The picket fence that's in the town road layout will be removed, so they will not need a license since it is being removed.
What about the flood zone?
It's in an AE. There was no FEMA worksheet needed because this will bring the property into compliance. And the developer's engineer did send a letter to that effect. Lot coverage analysis was submitted. The proposal is well within the range of the other homes. There are dry wells shown in the plans, and testimony was that those dry wells will take care of any stormwater runoff as part of this project.
All right. Conditions?
Per plans, work hours, a home to remain a 4-bedroom. Oh, add to the findings that if a modification is needed for the sewer connection, they'd have to handle that with the wastewater division.
Certainly make every effort to keep construction vehicles at least on site,
On site, sure.
or alternate them, so
Yeah,
it's
and then,
not too.
and condition it on the Concom RDA for approved RDA
All right.
that's been applied for.
Anything else for conditions?
The one across the street got it done, you know, so this would too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess that we did the work hours.
Work hours?
Work
yeah.
hours.
The normal ones, right?
Normal hours.
Yeah, I'd say that's fine. Anything else?
No, good luck constructing on the street. I couldn't get back and forth 3 times.
All right, so
Welcome to Woods Hole.
Yep.
motion to
And
approve.
stuck at the bridge.
Conditions made by Bob, second by James. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you, Attorney Moynihan. All right, looking at the time, it's 9:25. Board's business concludes at 9:30. We have one new hearing and a few items on our open meeting agenda. Would you like to entertain a motion to extend?
I'll make a motion to extend till 10 PM.
I'll second Mr. Morse's motion.
All right, motion to extend to 10 PM made by James, second by Scott. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, a little housekeeping taken care of. Up next, we have application 47-21, Drestepanian, 20, yeah.
You're close.
I'll be corrected. 29 Nauset Ave East in North Falmouth, requesting a special permit to construct additions and a second floor to a non-conforming single-family dwelling.
So application 47-21, Edmund and Salpi Durstepanian, 12 Beckett Road, Belmont, Mass. Applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit pursuant to sections 240-3C of the Code of Falmouth to construct additions and a second floor to the non-conforming single-family dwelling on subject property known as 29 Nauset Avenue East, North Falmouth. For referrals. So the applicant can discuss, but they did submit revisions to the plan that is gonna scale down the project. Health Department is fine with limiting the home to the 3 bedrooms. Engineering, application was reviewed for impacts to public rights-of-way and public utilities. Nauset Avenue East is a private right-of-way in this area. Any connections or alterations to public utilities would require permission from the appropriate town department. Project must not direct any stormwater runoff to public property, abutters, or public rights-of-way. Dry wells are proposed for the roof as typically recommended. Where this project falls in the jurisdiction of Concom, we recommend deferring to the Commission for Stormwater Management and Construction Erosion Controls, along with the proposed limit of work that would protect the abutting properties. Conservation Commission issued an order of conditions for the above project. And they attach the order of conditions. Assessors Department has no comment. So regarding the Health Department's comment, he said he performed a walkthrough of the house with BSS Design in 2018 to determine the bedroom count. The lower level room labeled game room was counted as a third bedroom and was the reason a three-bedroom system was installed in 2019 with variances granted by the Board of Health rather than a two-bedroom as current assessment indicates. The board treated it as an existing three-bedroom home, the lower level room as the third bedroom, and not an increase in flow. If the applicant wanted another bedroom, three total on the first and second, that game room needs to lose any privacy, so it would no longer be counted as a bedroom. But they have scaled that not to include it. Water Department, water main and service are in the plans. The existing service is a 3/4 inch and should be a 1 inch for maximum flow and pressure. The existing meter pit must be abandoned and the new meter installed inside the home. Planning, no comment. And no submitted letters.
All right, and for the applicant, we have Attorney Moynihan. Attorney Moynihan, apologies for tripping over my own tongue pronouncing your client's last name, and you already heard this from me, but there are four of us.
Yes.
We need a unanimous decision in order to approve the project tonight.
Yes, understood, thank you. 29 Nauset Avenue East, property owner is here, as well as Tom Bunker from BSS Design, and Mark McCarthy from, who's the designer for the new plans. So this property is at 29 Nauset Avenue East in West Falmouth, really, in the old Silver Beach area. This is the GIS map showing the rather well-developed neighborhood. This is a picture of the house, if any of you haven't had a chance to get out to the property. So it's a relatively small one-story house. Here's a side view of it looking from the street. And this is the existing conditions plan. The yellow is showing the existing home. The orange is the existing deck. I've shown the setbacks with the purple line. So we have a non-conforming setback of 16.2 feet from the road layout of Nauset Avenue East. You can see from the photo that we just went through that the physical road layout is much less than that, but that is the official setback. And also here, on this side, on the deck side of the house, we have a non-conforming setback of 8.7 feet. So non-conforming dwelling under 240-3, seeking your approval for additions and changes to the deck's structure. So this is the proposed plan, and we have the existing house, again in yellow. The orange is the deck reconfigured. So where you see the proposed addition on piers, in this area here, that's the kitchen addition, which was previously deck. The setback will stay relatively the same on that side. It does go to 8.8, but was 8.7 before. Front yard setback stays the same. The other setbacks stay the same. This is the basement plan, which will remain as is. And is showing a game room and a storage area. The health department considers that a, quote, bedroom, so that would be bedroom number 1 for the house. No changes to the basement proposed. This is the existing elevation here, the front, the rear, the left, and the right. And then we have the proposed elevations with the front. You see the second floor going on this area here. With the skylights, the kitchen addition on the side on the piers where there was previously decking, the rear elevation with the second floor and the rear decks, upper deck added, and the bedroom side elevation. The height is 20, well, actually I have that written out for you somewhere here, so I'll get to that in a second. First floor plan, we have bedroom number 2 on the first floor, And then second floor plan, bedroom number 3. These are the most recent revised plans. I did send them to the health agent to just double check that he didn't have any issues, and he did confirm by email yesterday that he thought they were fine, that it was still at the same 3-bedroom count. Basement plan is staying the same as existing. So we have the existing lot coverage at 7.48%, 906 square feet, relatively low. Overall lot coverage 8.35. The lot size is 12,100. We're zone residential C, and as I said, we have 3 bedrooms. The project is to remove and replace the existing first floor rear deck, the kitchen addition on the piers, add the second floor, new second floor decks, the interior alterations, basement to remain as is, removal of the front yard patio, and mitigation plantings as required by Concom through the order of conditions that's in your files. Building height proposed 21 feet, 21-2 and 5/8 inches feet. Proposed lot coverage by structures 7.82, so still relatively low. Increase is only 18 square feet on lot coverage by structures, increase of 15 square feet overall lot coverage, and again, well under the 40% limit for overall. So under section 243, we have a non-conforming structure as to setbacks. The proposed setback increased slightly on the south side. The front yard setback is proposed to stay the same at 16.2. No increase in the non-conforming setbacks, no adverse traffic, and no increase in bedrooms. There is a new septic system that was installed in 2019 as well for the 3-bedroom capacity. Relatively low lot coverage, and exterior improvements would be of benefit to the neighborhood, and new plantings and landscape conservation mitigation will also be a benefit. So I would submit that under the bylaw that this is not substantially more detrimental than the existing, will have beneficial impacts to the neighborhood and the site, will be of great benefit to the homeowner to increase some space in the house as well, and that the standards of the bylaw will be met. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you, Attorney Moynihan. James, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Scott?
None for me.
Bob?
Sip.
All right, the question was about the basement, but that was already been clarified. Public comment, any questions, comments, or concerns out there? Considering,
Motion to close?
all right, motion to close made by Scott, second by James. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to
Hearing is
approve.
closed.
Second.
Motion approved with conditions. All
Correct.
right, motion approved with conditions made by Scott, second by James. Findings?
Whipsaw?
240-3C, 240-216, not substantially more detrimental. For nonconformities, you've got 16.2 feet from the official road layout. The southerly side yard is 8.7.
New septic system in 2019.
Yeah, with the verification by the health department, I think they gave a variance.
Yep.
Property is a 3-bedroom and remaining a 3-bedroom.
Minor lot increase.
Yeah, so the increase will
Minor
be,
lot coverage increase.
yeah, 7.48 to 7.82 for structure and 8.35 to 8.66, structure, parking, and paving.
Proposed design is keeping with the neighborhood.
Yep, no new nonconformity. The height will be under 22 feet.
Increase in bedrooms.
As a Concom, order conditions.
Order of conditions, yep.
Pretty much it.
All right, conditions?
So per plans, condition on staying a 3-bedroom.
Hours. Not a lot.
Yep, construction hours.
Are we asking?
Oh, and the
for a height-
water-
A height cert at framing, even though it's only 21?
I don't know, it's 22 feet. I think it's okay. It's low.
Yeah, that's fine.
But the water service needs to be increased to a 1-inch.
Let's back up that
And then,
water condition with the water finding.
And then condition on Concom's orders.
All right, is that does it?
Yeah, you could put in the findings that they did, they reduced the size of the house from the original plans.
Sure. Good finding. All right, so if that does it, that was a motion to approve with conditions made by Scott and second by James. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you, Attorney Moynihan.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Thanks. It's good to be back. I miss my slippers, though.
You can bring your slippers.
No, that wouldn't
won't
be very good.
I'd hate to see you bring your slippers.
Coffee pink.
Fluffy slippers.
Fluffy slippers, yeah.
All right.
Tom, that was an easy night for you, huh? Johnson, yeah.
Yeah, you can go home and get ready for the hurricane.
Always necessary.
Yeah, get ready.
Stay safe out there, everyone. All right, so we already approved we already took up the first item on the open meeting, so we're going down to number 2, request for insubstantial change, comprehensive permit 57-17. North Star Place LLC, 123 Brick Hill Road in East Falmouth, modifications to previously approved plans. Has everyone had a chance to review the requested changes?
So what I would just point out to the board is that this is a comprehensive permit that was approved a few years ago. The development is now fully constructed. There were changes that were made in the process of the development to the original plans prior to getting approval from the board.
Was there any dialogue at all? Oh, you weren't here.
This was before me.
Right.
Wasn't the mix of the solid fence and arborvitae, that wasn't like a fence and arborvitae, right? It was
Yeah,
some
so
fence and then
I
arborvitae.
think what it was is there was originally an intent to have like spacing between the fence. That being said, they installed a solid fence across.
So that gives a better break.
I don't specifically have a problem with
Is
that.
this complaint driven?
No, what happened is during the development, we were called to check things out to see if they complied with the requirements, so we went out there and we did a few site visits, and we found that there were a number of minor issues, so we have created a punch list for them to ensure that all the landscaping was installed. You know, they had originally proposed a stone entranceway. There's not a stone entranceway there. I would kind of advocate that it wouldn't be a gain to install that at this point in time. There was supposed to be planting out in front. There's a bus stop there for the kids. It's kind of hard to put lovely planting there when you have a bunch of kids that are waiting for a school bus.
So I just have a question on the roll carts, and I'm trying to think when we saw it. I think at that time he said the dumpster was put in because they didn't have room to
They
store the roll
originally
carts.
planned to have dumpsters. Apparently, the residents, as they moved in, did not want dumpsters. So they seemed to be perfectly happy with the trash pickup. I have been out there. Doesn't seem to be a problem.
So where do they put the cans? They
They wheel them out to the
I mean, where do they store them when they're not out?
driveway. I don't know, I would guess maybe the side of the dwelling or perhaps the back, but
Yeah, I only asked because I know that when it was originally done, there was a comment about storing trash.
then really the only change is that they're asking to put in a shed. The shed that they're requesting is under 200 square feet, so it would not require a building permit. You know, it's just basically to maintain equipment that's for
Will
the
this satisfy your punch list?
They will still owe me a few things, but those are not specifically changes.
And this is a rental project, so the maintenance shed actually makes sense.
Right.
Sure.
So, you know,
The driveway's the base of the stairs.
I don't specifically have a problem with the things that they requested for insubstantial changes.
So what about the sidewalks? See, I'm trying to think from our original.
So they did put a sidewalk in on one side.
Okay, so
The
there is one in.
sidewalk- Right, the sidewalk is actually on the same side as the bus stop, so it
Okay, as
works out
long
well.
as they have one, it's fine.
Yeah.
Everyone was not installed on the sides of the park of the project we are seeking not to
It
install.
looks like the technical changes were due to field changes which is fine by me. As far as
But didn't come back to the board, right?
No, it didn't come back.
No, so we've encouraged people to have advanced dialogue about
which is always
changes.
best.
Well, I think it's good that you did a punch list anyways, because I know that the town gave most of the financing to buy down to allow them to do the rental project.
Yeah, there were some funds withheld in order to ensure that the final landscaping was installed and that, engineering was satisfied with the final result.
And the sign is just just the name, it's just the name sign, so that's fine with the fire department.
Yes, so originally they had installed what appeared to be similar to a street sign, and it said 123, maybe Brick Kiln Place or something, but there's not an address Brick Kiln Place. It's just Brick Kiln Place is the name of their development, so we're working out how to properly have that set up so that everybody is understanding of what they're looking at.
Understood.
You know, on the
Oh,
6
sorry,
foot,
Bob.
on number 11, that 6 foot cedar front, is that in front of anybody's house or is that just at the main? I'm just trying to figure out what we had, I remember this because this was a very controversial
So
hearing.
this is one question that sort of remains in my mind, because the entrance has an unusual shape to it, and it also has an abutter that the back of their property backs up to this property. And there's not really a delineation between the two properties. So they're looking to put a post and rail fence there. I don't know.
So this is a request for a vote to accept all
All
of
these
these?
changes.
All of them?
As an administrative
Right.
change, because if.
So we can't pick and choose, it's either a yes or a no
It's either a-
administratively?
Well, you can vote, I mean, you can vote down if you really wanted to,
Well,
but
then that would trigger a new.
That's exactly
public
right.
hearing.
So it's either a yes or a no to accept them the way they are
Right,
administratively or not.
Right,
right.
but though
You
they
good
do.
with it?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, they do owe us a few things. They understand that they do. They will submit those things to us. So this is just a request for the changes that they've made that,
When was the finish date on the, I mean, this was quite a while, this has been a year already, right, that people have been in?
more than you when it
Yeah,
started,
so,
a 2-year
I mean,
hearing.
as long as they understand that,
And I'm all right with this if Noreen is, but there's a danger, I think, with these permits, if people are coming back afterwards asking for all these changes to things that were for condition.
well, I think the other part of the problem here is that there was a condition in the decision that said no final CO until everything's done.
Right?
Unfortunately, the
They gave up.
COs were all given out.
Yep.
So you don't have that leverage anymore.
and in fairness to the office, she wasn't here
Oh,
for
no, I
any
know.
dialogue.
No, she wasn't here. Just
so
this is
it's kind
another-
of hard to police that now.
I was here when the COs were issued, and
But I just know we had a
did
huge
comment
turnout
on the COs being issued.
on this because it was a rental project.
That's why I asked if it was complaint driven.
Right, and I'll just mention, I'm fine with the changes made in the field due to technical reasons. I'd be in favor of finding it as an insubstantial change, but my one hang-up is the arborvitae's providing a buffer zone in between properties. I remember that was a major issue.
There was
I mean,
there was a big argument about all
I'm not
of the
gonna-
properties had an issue because for some reason, yeah, when they tore down all the trees, everybody literally looked,
You lost all the green space in the
you
green.
lost everything. It was actually pulled back on one side had some, but the other side where I think this is, didn't have any. And then there was, I mean, if you think that the cans are okay and they have a place, but I remember there was an issue where when they were asking about dumpsters and cans were suggested, and the issue back then was, he said there was no place to store the cans, and they were worried about people just leaving cans out.
So apparently they've worked it out so that, I don't know if perhaps the owner of the development is very hands-on about making sure
Well,
that.
the owner is this.
Right,
Yeah.
that,
He gets the, he's the
right. So I think,
management.
it appears that the couple of times I've been out there, the property has been.
Actually, Noreen, wasn't this, didn't the town, for the money that they gave, actually get somebody else as a monitoring agent?
I'm not sure about monitoring.
I think
What
originally
happened,
the developer had picked
the
somebody.
additional funds from the town were to buy down the rentals.
But I think they
so that they would be
negotiated
all
a
affordable.
change in the monitoring agent, because originally they wanted someone they knew. And I think it went to somebody else just to make sure, since the town was giving them monies anyways, but.
Let me ask a process question.
Sure.
In order, we either approve it or disapprove it.
Right.
With the caveat that the additional arborvitae's is we can't have that condition one way or the other
Well, so
with the way this is structured for the vote tonight.
Right, well, originally, the design showed a section or two of fence, a couple of arborvitae,
Yeah.
another section of fence. And,
So I guess my only question on something like this is, and I can understand
you
what
know,
wants to do
I
it,
would
that-
understand perhaps some more arborvitae to be installed. I wouldn't suggest removing section of fence.
No, I understand that,
in
but
order
how
to
do you
put in the
dictate that they
arborvitae.
do that if they haven't done it already under the original agreement? You accepting these and us voting on these insubstantial changes, what presses their feet to the fire to even do it? I mean,
Well, so
if that
there,
was a sticking point then, what makes it not a sticking point now, the arborvitae's?
right, well, I guess what I would also say to you is that while the COs have been issued, there are town funds that were promised to the developer that have been held back in order to ensure that the landscaping that was promised was installed.
So in this proceeding, can that be part of this vote tonight to ensure that?
No.
No, it'll go right to the profit line.
You know, I know there's minor things here, but I'm just telling you, I remember this hearing. And even though some of these seem really minor,
So what's the alternative? They come back to us?
you just advertise the changes, and if somebody wants to chime in, they can
Right.
chime in.
So the vote is on an insubstantial change. If we vote no, then that triggers a public hearing. And they come back before us. Everyone gets notice, abutters get notice, and then they present their changes to us as basically a substantial change, I guess.
Other than that, the change goes through if you approve it, and then whoever's expecting trees or something before their house finds out there aren't any, and there's nothing they can do
If
because.
they're renters, that doesn't become a civil action against the landlord.
It's not the
does it?
renters, no, it's
Not
the
with regards to the
abutters.
special permit,
It's the butters.
right.
So if an abutter showed up and all of a sudden he's expecting trees and the trees don't go in, and then he comes in here and says, they didn't put our trees in.
Again, that's why I asked if it
Yeah.
was complaint-driven,
Right.
Well, that's just,
Well, they wouldn't know.
our office has not heard from a butter.
and that's the only thing that's until you stated that was a sticking point for you initially, and they still haven't done the arborvitae's, I was all right with it because of the fact that it wasn't complaint-driven. If it had been complaint-driven,
I think in some aspects, it's been a benefit to the neighbors, because in the past, I know when this project was about to commence construction, there was not any clear delineation between the rear properties of the abutters and
Yep.
this property.
Yep.
And to have a solid fence there gives people both sides their property, and it also defines the lot line.
but in reality, to James' point, you know, at some point, the asking for forgiveness instead of permission has got to stop on these
Right.
projects.
Right.
Right.
Well, I think.
And at some point, they have to know that if we have to become picayune, for lack of a better term, then we have to make sure that they abide by what the conditions and the findings are of these special permits. You know, lapse of time does not dictate
No.
forgiveness for not doing what was prescribed.
Right.
Right?
Right.
I mean, that's how I feel about that part of it, but you not being in the office through the whole process, you don't know what was,
Right. Well, I think the other part of the problem, like I say, is that, you know, the decision specifically said no final CO until everything is done.
but they were handed
Okay,
out.
so
And that
curbing.
was not done,
So curbing
so-
number 6, I didn't think the curbing, I thought that was an engineer issue.
It was,
So-
about stormwater runoff and so
And they're just saying it works well, but we
Yeah,
don't
but so
know.
here's the problem, is that their parking areas are relatively small, and then they abut grass. So what I would say to you is, there's really not a benefit to installing curb there, because when you go to plow, It's just sort of more of an obstruction.
No, I guess what I'm saying is I thought engineering said they wanted curbing.
I think what they were saying is that the original plans probably showed it, but that they hadn't installed it. So then engineering expected them to install it because it
No,
was
I guess
on
what I
the
mean
plan.
is that when we went through the whole process of this, when we started, I don't think curbing may have been there originally. I think it might have been I think it was a referral.
But the
Post-requisite?
The town
Well, you know,
engineer
the
has been out
engineering
a
goes
few
over and says,
times.
wait a sec, we really want curbing in because we don't think the other thing works. I just don't, we don't have enough information. I'd have to go through the whole. I think they should just come back.
You think they should just come back now?
I just remember those hearings. You remember that hearing? Remember
Yeah,
how
no,
controversial it was?
Yeah, but I'm just, I remember it very well.
And I remembered that certain people did want arborvitae's and certain people did want fences, and I thought there was an issue with the curbing, and there were comments about trash.
Yep.
He was the one that decided he wanted to do dumpsters because he didn't want to do enclosures for cans.
And just in my head, I'm weighing what's considered an insubstantial change under the CMP.
Well, I think in general, I mean,
And then versus not following up on explicit conditions of this board.
well, I mean, in general, I mean, a lot of
Or
these,
to let the abutters come back and be heard, or at the very least be noticed. If they don't, I would be much more.
if they don't come in,
inclined to
then
approve And say, all right, you had your opportunity.
you may find out there's other.
Yeah, all right.
Not that I want to kick another hearing down the road, but.
Well, it's not kicking it down the road, it's.
And the
you know,
project's
yeah.
got their COs anyways, and it's not like it's stopping tenants or anything. They're in there, they're running the project. Because I'd also like to find out on the, if there were any other conditions when they decided after the fact to give money for the project.
All right, sounds like we're reaching a consensus here
So
then.
I need to ask one more question before we do that.
Yep.
So by doing that, do we open up that whole special permit to everything?
Just these.
Comprehensive.
Is
permit,
that,
but yeah.
well, that should be part of this vote then,
Mhm.
Yeah, anything that's,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
All right, would anyone like to make the motion?
I'll move to deny the request for insubstantial changes of comprehensive permit 57-17. Need a second motion then about what we're doing with it, or to the administrator or the chairman?
Right, so what happens is if you deny the insubstantial changes, we would notice a hearing and
For
they would
modification.
have to appear before you.
For modification.
All right, so motion to deny was made by James. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Bob. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, passes unanimously. Board updates, anything?
There's a recodification meeting on the 28th, and I am not going.
All right.
But Noreen will be there.
Will we have you on the 29th?
What's the 29th? Oh, is that
Our
us?
next meeting.
Yeah.
Our next scheduled
I will,
hearing.
I will change my schedules to be at the meetings if it's needed.
Yeah, the recodification is,
It's-
Just making sure you're gonna be here for us.
the lengthiest.
Skip recodification, that's fine with me.
Scott should be on the recodification.
Yeah, okay, Bob.
All right, anything else for updates?
Got hot in here the last 30 minutes.
Sure did. Board discussion, anything?
I guess just on whatever we have to do that Saturday thing at some point.
I do have one quick thing with regards to Ed. What's going on with Ed's health?
I don't think you discussed
No.
that in public session.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yep, just for
That was-
now.
But we wish him the best.
Purely out of concern
Yes.
for his well-being, that's all.
Yep, but for now, he can't make the meeting, so
Okay,
it's
all right.
being, it's
Sorry,
being
Ed.
noted. No, I know he's
Miss
watching. Hi, Ed.
Do we have a official ruling from town council regarding our alternate appointment, or you don't want to discuss this at that point?
Noreen, is there any sort of update there? I'll just defer to you, because I haven't heard anything.
Well, they sent out, I mean, it's not,
It's my understanding that it was determined that there was one vacancy advertised. There seemed to be some misunderstanding or discrepancy in how it was posted or not. So, you know, erring on the safe side, it's my understanding that they're going to repost the vacancy for the associate position specifically.
All right, so I haven't heard anything new in a while, so thank you.
Thank you, Noreen.
It seemed pretty clear, and I think, did they post it yet?
I don't know.
All right, anything else for board discussion?
Thank you.
Future agenda items?
Just the Saturday, whatever.
Looks like we have a couple of weeks off. Our next meeting is July 29th. Meeting adjourned.